asking the committee to look into the reasons why there was a sudden spike in prices and the amount that shocked just about everybody. We are familiar with how the electricity market works, at least from a layman's point of view, but we also have the duty to explain it to the public, which makes our tasks more difficult. Now, first things first. We have simulations, Mr. Ledesma and Secretary Petilla, that if only 300 megawatts had been made available in the WESM, the prices, the clearing prices would have dropped from 33 pesos to about 12 pesos. Now, we are curious why Malaya was not dispatched in a timely fashion in order to make up for the shortage that was accruing in the market. Who would like to answer this first? Either Mr. Ledesma or Secretary Petilla?
Mr. Secretary, can you? Good morning, Your Honor. With regards to Malaya, Your Honor, the system operator, or should I say NGCP, based on our procedure, is the one who determines dispatch. No, so why didn't we run Malaya? Personally, my understanding is the supply was sufficient. I concluded that because NGCP never mentioned anything to us with regards to insufficiency of supply. Thank you, Your Honor.
This thing happened over a period of 4 weeks. In the first week alone, tremendous shortages turned up. That the price spikes already were indications that there was a shortage, and that the shortage would continue until Malampaya gas field came back on stream. So you cannot tell the committee, Mr. Ledesma, that you figured out that there was no shortage because nobody told you, when all you had to do was look at the Western prices.
Your Honor, if I may react.
Yes, please.
Your Honor, I have with me now, and if the committee will allow me, if we can show it, I'm looking at the weekly summary report from the wholesale electricity spot market. No, and these reports I have with me, Your Honor, clearly show that there was no insufficiency of supply, Your Honor.
May we have a copy of that? Because that would be the... In other words, the supply and demand law did not work in the WESM, that there were shortages which drove the prices up, but at the same time there were no shortages per your information.
Yes, Your Honor. You want me to give it to you physically, Your Honor, or you want me to show it on the screen, Your Honor?
Do both, please, so everybody will be able to...
Okay, Your Honor, we'll do that.
But we would like to have a copy. I'm sure you brought more than one copy.
We only have one copy, Your Honor, but I'll see to it we get you a copy, Your Honor, as soon as possible.
Yes, you may use the projector. The chair also would like to recognize the presence of Senator Juan Ponce Enrile.
If we can just be given a few minutes, Your Honor, they're going to project it.
Certainly. Now, a question which is related is, who is supposed to oversee the entire electricity market? Who, on behalf of the people, makes a judgment as to whether we're going to be short, there's going to be spikes, let's bring in all available power to make up for whatever shortfall is forthcoming. Who makes that, Mr. Secretary?
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
The NGCP actually oversees, he sees the entire picture of where we are on supply and demand. In fact, he's the one who calls whether the reserve are going to be set in place, or he also warns everybody, all the agencies involved, ERC, PEMC, and DOE, whether we have a shortage or not. In fact, in the case of, while waiting for the slide presentation of PISAM, we've also looked into this particular scenario where why Malaya did not run. Although our instruction, Mr. Chair, to Malaya is to be prepared to run for 15 days. And this was always the preparation for Malaya during Malampaya shutdown. So ang Malaya kasi, Mr. Chair, is I'd say it's a one-off power plant. And it's different from the rest of the peaking plants in a sense that yung ibang peaking plants na diesel comes in 15 minutes. Pero itong Malaya is about 8 to 13 hours depende kung anong mga problema nila para mag-heat up. So that's why every time they offer ang NGCP, tinitingnan nila, they cannot rely on Malaya to actually dispatch. So for the past 5 years, Mr. Chair, Malaya has been behaving the way it has behaved in 2013 Malampaya shutdown, which is they only come into play when the SO calls them.
Who's representing the NGCP here?
I am, Your Honor.
Yes. Would you like to react?
Yes, Your Honor. During the Malampaya shutdown, Your Honor, there was no shortage in the supply of electricity. And we had sufficient reserves, Your Honor, please.
All right. Go into detail. Tell the committee what was the peak demand during that time. What were the total dependable capacity available in the market?
Yes, Your
What
Honor.
were the reserves? Which plants were down and by how many megawatts?
May we refer you to our technical person, Your Honor, Mr. Sani Di Maliwat.
Yes, please. You are what is known as the systems operator, no? Are you the early warning system for any shortage that might occur?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, that system is broadcast through issuance of alert notices.
Would you like to bring the mic closer to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. We give the trigger, or we broadcast the trigger through issuance of alert notices, such as yellow alert, red alert, and other alert notices, depending on the condition of the power supply and demand balance, and also depending on the configuration of the grid, the power grid.
And what type of alert did you give out between November 1 and December, say, 15?
I think there was a case.
Don't think. Give us the facts. Did you give out any alert? You said may yellow alert, red alert. What type of alerts did you give out and on which days?
We gave a yellow alert sometime in I will just check my notes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a summary, Mr. Chair, of the entire situation on supply and demand based on the information that we gathered from NGCP and from various agencies. If you will allow me, Mr. Chair, we can
Yes,
actually
please.
show it.
Yes.
Can we show it before the PISAM presentation? Because
You may, but let us just let Mr. Di Maliwat finish his answer.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
How many alerts did NGCP issue?
On November 15, we declared a yellow alert from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock due to the outages of planned and unplanned outages of generating units and sudden increase in system demand.
That's it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, in the entire period, you issued yellow alert, and that was on the 15th of November
Yes, Your Honor.
from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The rest of the time, walang alert.
None, Your Honor.
Would you say that you flunk in your job? Because obviously the market merely reacted to the actual shortages. And here you have something that caused a tremendous spike in power prices when it could have been avoided if other plants who were not being offered on the market had been called to operate.
As stated, as indicated earlier by Attorney Concepcion, the supply capacity during the period from November 8 to December 10 is sufficient, meaning there was no deficiency in the system. With that, the market continuously, because the scheduling of the power plant is being done by the market, and for the period, the market has been scheduling the power plants, meaning that the supply condition is above the demand, so that in that period, there is a sufficient capacity for the supplier to compete for the demand, hence the operation of the market.
You know, that's precisely what we are saying. Nagkamali kayo because the market itself reflected that there was a shortage. That's precisely the job of NGCP, to make sure that these shortages don't occur by warning or issuing warning in advance that we're going to have a tight situation, a tight power supply situation on such and such a day. And you say you only issued one yellow alert on November 15th. And yet the prices that obtained, or the clearing prices that obtained in the spot market, in the weighted electricity spot market, were maximum. There were many days on which the clearing price, the highest clearing price, was hitting 62 pesos, which is the cap. Now, Mr. Secretary, are there any penalties, failures of participants in the electricity industry, particularly some groups as important as the NGCP, which is the systems operator? Are there any penalties for this?
Mr. Chair, our based on PEMC rules, on WESM rules, okay, there are two types of penalties, Guru. This one, the first set of rules, basically, if you violate the rules within the WESM. Pero when it comes to anti-competitive market abuse, this goes into ERC.
Then the ERC is called upon to explain and respond to the question, please.
Mr. Chairman, may we allow Attorney Juan to answer the question?
Would you like to bring the mic closer to? Do you wish, Mr. Nino?
Yes,
Yes, all right. Mr. Juan?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we confirm that for WESM rules breach, it is provided in the WESM rules that the penalties may be imposed by, but insofar as anti-competitive behavior, the imposition of penalty is with ERC under Section 45 in relation to Section 46 of APLA, sir.
So some penalties can be imposed by PEMC for certain types of violations and the others by ERC.
Yes, sir. Under the clause on enforcement and disputes of the WESM rules, there are provisions there on breaches of WESM rules by WESM participants and alleged breaches of the WESM rules by market operator or system operator.
All right. Now, aside from NGCP, I think it is the WESM that can keep a close watch also on the market because they are the market operator. Did PEMSI issue any warnings as to impending shortages during those days?
Your Honor, if I may, when it comes to warning, particularly in relation to shortages, we have no responsibility to that. And in fact, when it comes to the difference between the available capacity versus that of ours, we rely on these offered to us.
Well, certainly. I mean, your offers come in hour by hour, don't they?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
And certainly, you can already tell by the type of prices being offered that there is a shortage. That's the way the market operates, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. But then, when it comes to, I would say that some generators who did not offer their price or offer their capacity, it will be subject to investigation by the MSC.
Well, that's been 2 months now. Did you subject them to investigation?
Actually, we have an independent committee. We called it the Market Surveillance Committee. Their responsibility is to monitor the behavior, including the market design. And once, based on their evaluation, that there is something to be investigated, then a report will be submitted to the PEM board and request the approval of the PEM board for investigation. Now, once approved by the PEM board,
You're telling us the process. Tell us if there was an investigation or not, and what the findings were.
well, up to this time, they're still looking at it. And for it is a separate entity, Your Honor.
In other words, it will take you 2 months to declare that there was a shortage and that we should have invited others who had not offered their capacity on the market to offer it. So you'll ask them to offer it next month?
No, sir, it's not actually.
What type of instant response do the Filipino customer have,
Well,
which is the responsibility of PEMSI? What type of response, aside from going through all the rigmarole of saying you want to get authority to investigate? Come on, I mean, this is something that you'll know in 5 seconds the moment you just take a look at the board.
Yes, sir. What we can just do is to report it to the ERC and the Department of Energy because we
Did
have...
you report it to the ERC and the Department of Energy?
Yes, sir. And that is the very reason why
On what day did you report it to the Department of Energy?
before the November 27, we have been reporting and we have been meeting. And that was the reason, sir, we need to complete the cycle, the billing cycle, for us to be to determine on whether that 62 have affected the spot market or it is part of the bilateral contracts.
But you know what cleared that day, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you do know what the clearing price was.
Yes, sir.
And you do know that the clearing price were consistently over and above what the WESM normally sees, whether it's on an hourly basis or on a daily basis.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what do you do? The committee is trying to find out. Obviously, some things fell through the cracks.
Sir, we do not know on whether that 62 will cover the bilateral contracts or the spot.
It doesn't matter. The mere fact that it's hitting 62 is an indication that there is a tremendous shortage.
Yes, sir.
How many times have you seen 62 on the market?
Well, actually,
In the-
for November and December.
No, before November, how many times did you see 62 pesos?
Well, for
Clearing, huh?
it's actually more than 10 times from 2006 to until 2012. And
2006 to 2012, so that's 6, so that's about 1.5 times a year, average.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
talking about average.
Yes, sir.
And here you see it almost daily.
Yes, sir. So, reason why we sat down with the DOE and the Energy Regulatory Commission, and then November 27, the Secretary already convened the tripartite committee, and then announced that there will be investigation.
But an investigation takes time. What instant response can the people expect from the Department of Energy, the ERC, the PEMC, even the PSALM? Because there were plants that were available but were not being offered. And one example is the 600 megawatt Malaya. Why was that not dispatched? Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we go through the slides, Mr. Chair, so I can explain it better, the situation of supply and demand, and on the issue of Malaya and outages, actually it's contained in this particular report,
All right.
the effects.
Is this the one?
This is the one.
All right. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a brief outline, just turnaround preparations, okay? The first one is just a series of meetings pertaining to the upcoming shutdown. Yeah. So there were several meetings already. Every now and then it changes because it also depends on the schedule of the power plants. Some of the power plants actually were scheduled to be maintained on that particular month, November. We asked them to move it. Yung ibang mga planta naman, Mr. Chair, they were scheduled already. They could have avoided the November shutdown, but we told them not to have a planned maintenance on the election season. So they had no choice but to put it on that particular time, sa November. We also asked Malampaya, is there any other date where they can put this, because this is Christmas season? January is a good month, February is a good month, but the problem is weather-wise, medyo maalon rin ngayon, okay, as compared to November. So these are just the preparations that we did for the Malampaya shutdown. Next slide, please. Okay, just a brief description. I have to compare it with 2010. Okay, I'm still in the process of comparing it with other outages of Malampaya, because there were, between 2010 and 2013, there were other shutdown of Malampaya ranging from 3 days to 7 days. But I'm focusing on 2010 kasi ito ang pinakamahal outage. 32 days for 2010 and 30 days for November 2013. The purpose basically is for 2010. This is a scheduled routine. And in the case of 2013, we actually implemented Malampaya 2. That was the biggest task that they actually did. In fact, we had another shutdown this month simply to fine-tune what they have put in place in November. Medyo nag-clog yung ano nila, yung mga pipes nila, so they had to clear it. Next. So just a brief summary. In 2010, okay, in 2013, we had one yellow alert. Pag sinabing yellow alert, we're not using the reserve yet. Wala pa tayong reserve nun? Or you use the reserve?
The yellow alert, sir, is an indication that the contingency reserve is less than what is actually required.
Okay. So we had a yellow alert, okay, but still walang MLD. MLD, for the information of the body, is manual load dropping or brownout, usually rotating yan. We had about 464 shortage in 2010, okay, and that was the biggest 464, but it occurred in 3 days, hindi lang March 4. The effectivity of the price was in February 11 and in March 13, averaging about 12 pesos. And in November 2013, the average is 22 pesos. Okay, I'm just citing, Mr. Chair, that compared to 2010, we really had more supply in 2013 in the Malampaya shutdown as compared to 2010. Yet the prices was 22, and in the previous one, it was 11 and 13. The maximum demand, okay, again, these are all historical data that we verified, and this can be re-verified by all parties concerned. Maximum demand was 7,000 megawatts, and the maximum capacity was 7,662. Now, it's we don't necessarily subtract it because the 7,000 may have occurred in a different date from the 7,600. But these are the capacities that we had in 2010, 7,600. For 2013, we had 8,400 as opposed to the maximum capacity of maximum demand at 7,500. Again, they may have occurred in different dates, and that's why we had to come up with a graph on what actually transpired. Next slide, please. Okay, it's I read it from where you're sitting, but I'll try to help out by pointing out certain areas. Okay. In this particular case, okay, this is the red line is our demand. Okay, the red line is the demand, and the perforated is the required reserve. And the graph, the bar chart, actually reflects the actual supply. Okay, so as you can see, this may be disputed again by parties. We can go back, but these are actually coming from NGCP themselves. But the point of the matter here is there was really less supply in 2010 because this MLD, this is the occurrence of the brownout. Okay, sorry. Okay. The occurrence of the brownout was actually here, here, and here. The maximum demand is this one. That's why we had, it was very tight, but we didn't have any, the reserves were actually dispatched at this point. This is the maximum demand, and this is, hindi ko mabasa from here, but I think this is the minimum demand. Okay, and the maximum supply was here, and the minimum supply was here. So actually, demand natin and maximum supply are not necessarily on the same date. Now, in 2013, if you compare 2013, okay, we have a lot more supply based on this data. Although here, ang tanong dito, when did Malaya plant come into play? It was running all along for about 22 days, except for, but I have another graph for this, somewhere on the 22nd up to the 27th. Around this area, hindi tumatakbo ang Malaya. I'm still trying to find out whether it's an SO call or whether this is a maintenance problem. But I would assume this is an SO call at this point. In 2013, okay, Malaya ran in this chart, okay, kasi ang sinasama natin dito ang kung kailan rin, I'm trying to indicate kung kailan tumakbo ang Malaya. Okay, it ran from 2 to 6 at 350 and from 6 to 11 at 500 megawatts. Okay, in this particular area, okay, I don't know if Meralco released the effects on the prices coming from WESM, but from this date up to December 1, Malaya was not actually running because based on SO, he had one, but that's it. Whereas here, nakikita ni SO na we might run into problem, that's why he called on Malaya. Now, the prices, okay, I don't have a presentation of the prices for the breakdown of this, but the prices where Malaya ran in this particular case, kasi dito, hindi tumakbo si Malaya in this area. In this case, this is where we saw the WESM prices for Meralco, okay, at about 33 pesos, but the average weight for the entire Malampaya shutdown was 22 pesos, but the weighted average for November was about 22 pesos. For December, it was actually higher. In other words, when Malaya was running, it was still higher than when Malaya was not running. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is the power plants which went on forced outage. Pag sinabing forced outage, I just want to qualify this, that the forced outage is actually parang aberya. It was not planned, it just conked out and they have to fix it, okay? The lowest what was actually this particular date, this is 23rd, I think, okay? And the highest was actually, this is March, this is for 2010. Ang titingnan na lang natin siguro dito ang level. Ito ang pinakamataas, which is about 2,600. Ang pinakamababa is 330. This is 2010. Okay? Can we move on to the next slide? This is naman sa Malampayan 2013. The highest was basically 2,000. Okay? But to some extent, okay, we have to analyze this na this is a bit sustainable. Can we just press this, okay. The previous slide, although mas mataas to, it only happened once. Sustainable niya, if you look at the average, okay, is probably lower than that of 2013. Okay. This is the force outage for 2013, Malampaya shutdown. The next slide is basically, this is the planned outage, okay, for 2010. The highest was 1,830. Okay, that's why when we say, Mr. Chair, that siyam na planta or walong planta ang nagsabay-sabay, probably on the period where Malampaya shut down, there were 9 plants that went down, but they didn't necessarily go down all at the same time and at the same date. This is the plan for 2010, and for 2013, ito naman ang plan, which is, if you look at it, it's pretty much within the range. Hindi sila nagkakaiba when it comes to plan. Even on the forced outage, there may be a difference on the concentration, but more or less, you're seeing a certain level that is expected. This is the unplanned outage. I was also confused, Mr. Chair, with the planned, unplanned, and the forced. The unplanned it's not in the GOMP. In other words, the GOMP is the Grid Operations and Maintenance Program, where prior to the year, like 2014, we have a GOMP. Lahat nagpaalam na kung kailan sila magme-maintenance. But this one, nagpaalam siya kahit wala sa siya GOMP because he really needed to shut down the plant. And this is Masinloc. And they were approved within the year. So this was also, although they were unplanned for 2012, they were not in the GOMP when the GOMP was created. Nagpaalam sila sometime, if I can recall, sometime August, they said that we really have to go down at this particular time. We don't have any other day. But this is only a small capacity that went down. The next one is the 2010, a combination of just about everything. Okay. Ilan ang nag-outage? 3,900 is the maximum. The minimum is about 1,500 on different days. And then in 2013, okay, maximum was about 3,500, which again was less than the 2010 outages. Okay. And in the next slide, what we have here is basically the different prices. Ito ang average to, when we say 22, because some people are asking, if November was 22,000, why is Meralco charging 33? Because this one is weighted average, whereas Meralco was buying at peak. Peak lang niya binibili, mas mataas ang presyo sa peak. This is weighted average. The average of the prices, itong merong orange, these are Malampaya shutdown. Okay? And the description is, this one is, number one is November 22 to December 16 in 2006. That's about 24 days. Okay, and the prices were, I can't make out the prices here. But anyway, this is NGCP congestion. Tumaas din dyan for a short period. 10 February to March, this is the 2010 outage of which yung data kino-compare natin kasi siya ang pinaka pwedeng i-compare natin because ang length niya is more or less the same. And then in October, we had about 6 days. This is October 2011. And then in June, okay, 8 to 11, 4 days. Ito ang presyo. And then July 13 to 20, about 7 to 8 days. Ito ang presyo. And then, of course, we have the unprecedented spike on 2013. Next. Is that the last slide? Okay, meron pa ba? Last slide na yan. Okay. These are just assumptions versus actual. Okay. Meron pa ba tayo dito? Okay pa to? Hindi na. Okay, siguro not to give too many numbers at this point. Siguro I'll go back again to this one because we are also getting bottom of this because I know that that people will question this, and I did also question this. Okay, but this is still being investigated internally by DOE to be shared with ERC for their investigation. The next question is if we had enough supply, because this is according to NGCP, why was 62 clearing at that particular time? Okay, so were there enough offers? Now, in order for us to actually answer that question, we'll now have to go to the daily trading, and not only the closing price ang titingnan namin, we'll have to look at each of the bid, especially in the oil plant bidders. Titingnan namin ang bidding. Mr. Chair, when you asked before why kung malalaman na namin ang effect nito sa taong bayan, the problem with PEMC is that we don't have a copy of the power sales agreement. So if a bid is made, we don't know if that is contracted. Because it can be bidded, pero kahit na lumusot yan at 62, kung contracted yan, hindi yun ang ibabayad sa kanila. So unless we have a copy of all the PSAs, the overall effect in the market and to the consumers can only be found out if we have all the PSAs. PSAs are not really submitted to DOE and PEMC. This is actually submitted to DOE. And nagre-request kami sa kanila every time we're looking into the behavior of the spot market at this point. But this is in answer to the question of whether we had enough supply. I can only compare it to 2010 and the prices in 2010 and the prices which happened right now. The conclusion, Mr. Chair, at this point is that we need to really thoroughly, I mean, we keep on saying this in public and I know it doesn't help, but we really need to analyze each transaction that was made on each particular hour by each player in order to qualify the prices on why they spike. Ano ang sagot doon? Bakit nag-spike? Is it really supply? Is it bidding behavior? Was there any other triggering factor? What had the PSA had something to do with the bidding process? Lahat ito, Mr. Chair, we have to look at this. Although again, the investigating body is not DOE under the IPIRA, it is ERC, but we're trying to help them. In fact, I will be subpoenaed by ERC next week to share this information and our observation. That's about it, Mr. Chair.
Chair would like to recognize Senator Pia Cayetano. That doesn't answer our question. We were asking, what type of instant response can you give aside from a 3-month investigation? Up to now, wala pa kaming resulta dyan sa investigasyon ninyo. This could happen tomorrow, and then you're going to say, well, we will investigate it, and that's another 3 months. We have to know what type of instant response was lacking that allowed such a situation to persist for an extended period of time.
Mr. Chair, can I ask ERC to, because this is a regulation matter at this point. In fact, I cannot intervene on suspending the market. And even on the suspension of the market, there are certain rules.
We're not talking about suspending the market. The first thing is to add supply to the market. You had Malaya, that 600 megawatts, you did not add it. I want an explanation for that.
Mr. Chair,
You know, Mr. Secretary earlier already said, we ran some simulations and just 300 megawatts more would have brought the price down by about 20 pesos in the spot market because the curve was really very steep at the edge. And just added, if you had just added 300 megawatts, it would have dropped the price substantially. The committee would like an explanation why that wasn't done. Why does the government own a 600 megawatt plant that was not run when it could have saved the customers a lot of money?
Mr. Chair, again, going back to the chart, Mr. Chair. From November 10 to December 1, okay, Malaya did not run, okay, in this particular case. And again, this is the call of the SO, and that's why we asked the SO, SO, ikaw ang tumingin. You know what's going on in the supply and demand. So hindi niya tinawag dito, Mr. Chair.
Bakit SO? Teka muna, pag ako may-ari ng planta at nakikita ko may shortage, hindi ko antayin yung SO. Of course, nagkamali rin ng NGCP dito. But I would not wait for that. If I can see that there's a shortage that might be the cause for a spike, I'd run my plant already. I'd offer it already.
Mr. Chair, ang nakakakita kasi ng, ang spot market kasi, ang nakikita lang niya, what is being
Bakit
traded.
babayaran ba ng NGCP yung 9 billion pesos that our customers now have to pay
The protocol,
because of the price spike?
The protocol kasi, Mr. Chair, is that the NGCP sees the entire picture, including the reserves. Okay, so
Kapalpakan nga sila eh. Makikita mo na sa signal sa market. If you don't trust the market, then we can probably try to repeal the law of supply and demand. Not that it hasn't been tried in the Congress before. But you can see just by the signals, the pricing signals, that there is a shortage and it is time to offer whatever reserve power we have.
Mr. Chair, one observation, if you look at the graph, Mr. Chair, in this particular instance, okay, December 2 to 10, okay, tumakbo na yung Malaya. Okay, December 2 to 10, it actually ran. Okay? Kasi tinawag na ni SO, sinabi niya, we don't want to hit yellow alert, so we have to run you. Okay? So from this November 10 to December 1, hindi tumatakbo si Malaya because SO said we have enough supply. Now, in December 2 to 10, ang presyo sa WESM, tumatakbo na ang Malaya, was higher than in November. In other words, kahit tumatakbo dito si Malaya, Mr. Chair, ang prices pa rin were actually skyrocketing.
Yeah, you would have known that in advance. I have a graph here of the prices that obtained in the WESM. Where are the WESM prices? And they were consistently high from mid-November.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just on this point,
Who's talking, please? Oh, yes.
just on this
Senator
point,
Ruiz.
Mr. Chairman, ang sinisisi kanina pa ho ni Mr. Ledesma at ni Secretary Petilla, hindi daw kinol ng SO. But wasn't Malaya on a planned shutdown at that time? In fact, a shutdown that has been ongoing since July. I don't know if how a planned shutdown can last that long.
Your Honor, may I?
Please, sir.
Will you identify yourself, please?
Mr. Abelardo sa Palaran,
Of the,
Pisam.
of Bisam, okay.
Yeah.
Just for the record, Mr. Chair, Pisam owns Malaya.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you entered into an O&M with
Kepco.
KEPCO. To that tune, we're paying something like 600 million, right? Roughly? A year.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. It's Salcon Power.
Who?
Salcon Power, Your Honor. Salcon Power.
Please
Or
proceed, sir.
SPC.
Naka-planned shutdown ba tayo ng mga panahon to o hindi?
Malaya was not unplanned shutdown. As discussed during the meeting, coordination meeting with DOE, we were instructed to prepare Malaya to make sure that Malaya will be available during the Malampaya shutdown. In fact, we built up fuel supply for that purpose, and we made Malaya ready. What is available during that time for Malaya is that Unit 1 is available at its rated capacity of 300 megawatts. For Unit 2, the available capacity out of 350 is only 260 because there is a problem of one of the equipment of the unit. Okay, so the available actually is 560, not 600.
So during the period covered po, you were available for dispatch?
Yes, Your Honor.
And your operating cost is mas mahal, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
12?
Around that number, or 10
Around 12 pesos per kilowatt hour.
per kilowatt hour, or 10 to 12 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Now, isn't there a must-offer rule, sir?
Yes, there is, Your Honor.
Did you offer?
We offered, sir.
You offered?
Yes.
At how much, sir?
Well, actually, our maximum price actually is 45 pesos for 45,000 per megawatt hour.
So,
But-
during this period, how much did you offer, sir?
45,000 per megawatt hour.
So, ultimo yung plantang pag-aari ng gobyerno, ang offer sa WESM, 45 pesos.
Let me explain further, sir. Your
Yes, sir.
Honor.
Please, sir.
This is how it happened. From the start of the wholesale electricity spot market, Malaya is a registered participant, bidded in the WSM. Up to somewhere along 2011, we have realized that Malaya has been losing when it was bidding into the market. In so doing, what we did was to submit bids,
Na
but
mataas.
well, during the time it was not that much. It's only enough to recover our cost. Okay? So, during that time, because the market prices is always below our production cost than our bid offers, we were always running at PMIN, or minimum stable load. And we were continuously losing.
Sir, naiintindihan ko po yan actually. Simplihan natin. 10 to 12 pesos ang cost nyo. Ang average price sa kung walang krisis nasa below 6 pesos.
Yes, Your
So kung mag-offer kayo at gino, lugi kayo kung mabili at masara ng below 6 pesos.
Yes,
Di
Your
ba?
Honor. That's correct.
Sa kasong ito, nag-offer kayo ng 45.
Yes, Your Honor.
Paano ho natin sisisihin ng SO o NGCP kung nag-close ng mas mababa, ay ang offer nyo naman pala ay mas mataas?
Your Honor, may I continue?
Yes, sir, please.
So what we did during the time, we know that we were losing. What we did was to submit bid offer, but we are shutting down the plant for reasons of economic shutdown.
That's what I was going to say, sir. Yung plant shutdown na sinasabi ko, ang alam ko, I have the records that show that since July, naka-shutdown kayo. Pero economic shutdown to, hindi to...
Yes, not maintenance shutdown or whatever.
So meaning to say, we have that plant, there is that capacity, pero dahil sobrang mahal i-operate, pag nag-offer kayo, malulugi lang ang gobyerno.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kaya hindi na lang, kaya naka-shutdown kayo at kung mag-offer man kayo sa presyong hindi binibenta.
Correct.
Tama po?
Yes, Your Honor. So what we did was, because we are submitting offers, the PEMC says our reason for economic shutdown is not an acceptable reason for must offer rule. So we were penalized for that. Okay. What we did was, in order to avoid Malaya to run and keep on losing, we again submitted bids, but we did not synchronize the plant to the grid. In effect, we were not included in the WSM dispatch processing. That is why Malaya did not become part of this dispatch process during the Malampaya shutdown. But we informed DOE, we informed PEMC, we informed NGCP that at any time that NGCP would need the capacity of Malaya for insufficiency of supply or for voltage requirement, they can always call Malaya
Sir,
as a must-run unit.
Kaya nga tinawag ko po kaninang planned shutdown. Thank you for clarifying na economic shutdown pala yun essentially. Naging available lang ang Malaya 1, correct me if I'm wrong, December 7. Naging available ang Malaya 2, December 3.
No, Your Honor, Malaya has been available from the start of the Malampaya shutdown, but it was only requested to operate from December 2 to December 11. because
what-
there was already insufficiency of supply.
Sir, what do you mean by requested to operate? So
And-
essentially nangyayari, may planta ho tayo, pag-aari ng gobyerno, na ayon nga kay Senator Osmeña, kung pinasok natin, hindi umabot ng ganun yung presyo. Pero dahil kung sumali tayo in the ordinary course of events sa WESM, malulugi lang ang gobyerno kaya hindi na lang.
Yes.
At nung nag-alok pa ng presyo, yung plantang pag-aari ng gobyerno, inalok sa 45 pesos pa,
Yes.
na mas mataas kaysa doon sa presyong nag-close.
Yes, but again, Your Honor, that price is no longer relevant in the market because it is not included in the wisdom dispatch process and the pricing.
Kasi nga, hindi nyo ho pinapatakbo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kasi pag pinatakbo nyo, may must offer kayo at malulugi kayo.
Yes.
So, paano ho naging reserve o paano makakatulong itong plantang pagmamayari ng gobyerno? I read a statement made when the O&M agreement was entered into by Mr. Ledesma. In describing Malaya, he said, to provide much-needed additional capacity for Luzon when some baseload power plants are not producing either due to forced outages or preventive maintenance. Yun po ang purpose ng Malaya.
Yes. So,
But that was not the purpose served under the circumstances you described.
yes, because, Your Honor, we are waiting to be requested by NGCP to run only when there is insufficiency of supply or when there is voltage
So
support
lumalabas parang reserve kayo.
Yes, Your Honor, exactly.
Reserve.
Yes, in short, we intended it to be a security plan.
Attorney Concepcion, kung reserve, correct me if I'm wrong, can the SO utilize the reserve to provide supply in the market, in the WSM? No,
Well,
right?
No, Your Honor. Let me clarify. The situation here was that Malaya, during the time that we requested them to run from December 2, was requested to run as a must-run unit because there was already a danger of the reserve going below the levels. But prior to that, there was no such danger because of the sufficiency of supply. So, in that case, Your Honor, please, we only also dispatch the plant, Malaya plant, of Pisam only in those conditions when the reserve level is low.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, ang tingin ko po sana kasi in simplistic terms sa reserve, if we can find a mechanism for it, kung magagamit natin yung reserve in order to correct some market distortion so that the prices can be lowered. Right now, it's not allowed. And number two, sana, yung mga may-ari ng gobyerno, like Malaya, Mr. Chairman, although it will operate at a loss, to be able to enter the picture in order to stabilize again the market and not simply to cut its losses. Ngayon, ayaw nyo hong malugi. Ang resulta, consumer ho ang magbabayad. But had you foreseen na yung presyo mas mataas naman talaga sa 10 to 12 na operating cost ninyo, you would have in fact earned money during this period and at the same time, help the consumer. Mr. Ledesma, sir? So anong purpose, anong silbi ho sa atin ng Malaya? Wala. Sa ngayon, imbis na makatulong dahil ayaw nyo malugi, hindi na lang.
No, Your Honor, that's why we were saying that during the Balampaya shutdown, Malaya is always ready to operate in case there is a need due to insufficiency of supply.
Who decides? Excuse me, Ms. Senator Cheese.
Yes, bro.
Who decides if there's a need? That's what we've been trying to ask.
Your Honor, with regards to your question on who decides, it's NGCP, Your Honor, who determines dispatch. So we are just, at Pisal, we just wait for NGCP because they're the ones who are determining
But
dispatch.
you made offers into the market, no? And your peak offer was 45 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Your Honor, again, it's just to comply with the must offer rule. But like Mr. Sapalaran mentioned earlier,
Teka
it's-
muna. Who decides that Malaya has to be offered?
Paano hindi nyo...
Is that an economic decision on the part of Pisalm? Kikita tayo ngayon, so mag-offer tayo. Ganun ba yan?
Your Honor, in the WSM, all participants, all
Teka lang muna. naka-economic shutdown kayo eh. Even if you could operate, you deliberately shut it down because it was very expensive for you to operate. You were in a money-losing proposition. Of course, you already had fixed O&M costs of 600 million pesos a year, which you signed up with Salcon Power, di ba? So in other words, if you shut down the whole year, lugi na kayo ng 600 million. Ganun.
Well, of course,
Correct?
because we're paying
All right.
Salcon.
Now, what did you feel you had to dispatch your power at? What price did you believe you could dispatch your power at in order, say, to utilize 10% of your plant capacity?
Price?
Anong presyo binibid ninyo na hindi kayo malugi?
Well, it is logical that for us to bid a certain price beyond our production cost in order that we will be able to recover our cost.
Can you please answer my question? Never
Yes.
mind the explanation. What price would be profitable for you?
Well, Your Honor, depending on the results of the market, from 20,000 to 45,000, depending on how many times we clear.
25,000 to 45,000.
20,000 to 45.
That's 20 to 45 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Yes, Your Honor, but that again depends on how many hours.
Yes,
we
I
will
know. That's
clear.
why I'm asking what's your minimum hour. Say at 20 pesos, how many hours do you have
At
to?
20 pesos, if we can only clear at that price for around half of the day, then we would be recover our cost.
In other words, if you operate as a mid-merit, half the day, so you turn on at 10 o'clock and turn off at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, Your Honor, that is another limitation for the Malaya plant because it cannot operate on a start-stop operation. It takes 16 hours, 14 to 16 hours to synchronize the plant into the grid.
Why don't you burn the plant? What are you doing with the plant? No, really. I mean, if you had a plant that needed 20 to 45 pesos per kilowatt hour, I'd put a piece of dynamite under there and I'll make more money
But, Your
selling
Honor,
it for scrap.
Mayor,
Yeah.
the only problem with Malaya is because it is a baseload plant. During off-peak hours, the price is so low that if you only get a few hours during the peak at
Mr.
the clearing price.
Sapalaran, very simple yung question ko. Kung ikaw po ang may-ari ng Malaya, how would you operate it?
Of course. May I give the floor?
Mr.
you-
Chair, can I
Yes,
just
please.
interject? I will not answer for Pisam, pero I will just answer an incident where Pisam actually came to me and said, we bid it out because their trust really is to privatize, to get rid of all these plants. That's their mandate in a sense. So they came to me and said, we bidded this out twice, no takers. We would like to bid this again and we'd like to get your permission. We will now bid this as scrap. And I said no. Because if the bidding party, if this is sold as scrap, be after the real estate or the junk value, but they will not run it as a plant because it's not in the condition. Kasi sabi rin nila, tatanggalin na namin, it will not run as a plant anymore. But otherwise, we can sell this. And I said no, because I still need it in my equation. There are no plants coming in to replace them. So that's why they really want to get rid of this plant because this is a plant that is cheaper to burn than to actually operate, in a sense. But at this point,
Mr. Secretary, that's why I'm just asking a simple question. So you made a decision to keep the plant. I'm sure you didn't make the decision to keep the plant so that it will be shut down and you'll pay 600 million pesos a year in O&M fees to Salcon Power. I'm sure you intended to use the plant. Now, at what stage would you use the plant? I mean, this was a perfect situation for you to have started up Malaya even at a loss because you just admitted you can't operate Malaya for a profit. So therefore, you're keeping Malaya because you're willing to operate it at a loss to make up for certain power deficiencies that might occur in the market, di ba?
That's right, Mr. Chair.
Okay. How come it was not operated? How come
Okay.
it was an economic shutdown and then they only started operations when? December 7 or December 4?
Parang ganito yan, Mr. Chair. You can operate Malaya, okay? Sabihin na lang natin, all year round it's running. But that's also not prudent because if you don't need it, why would you run it? Okay? You also don't shut it down at the time when it's needed because that's why it's there. That's why we have Malaya. So, ang sa atin ito, who decides whether it's actually needed at this point? Not to curb prices, but really for energy security. We entrusted to the SO because they see the whole picture. Ang franchise nila, actually, their responsibility is to manage the entire grid. Now, going back to the chart which I just showed earlier, I will again repeat that the supply situation in 2013 was way better than in 2010. Why? We did not have any brownout, nor did we run the ancillary reserves. In 2010, we had power failure.
Yeah, but Mr. Secretary, that's totally irrelevant. Why? Because if certain happenings occur, like nag-shutdown ng Pagbilao, nag-shutdown ng Kalaka, nag-shutdown ang Masinloc, which is totally unforeseen, then we have a shortage. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, ha? NGCP said at the last hearing that they contract for about 1,500 megawatts in reserve, 300 for ancillary, then there's load following, then there's all of these other types of reserves. Total 1,500. We were short already 1,500 going into Malampaya without the shutdown of the breakdown in Pagbilao, in Masinloc, in Kalaka, and in Quezon Power. Why? We lost 150 megawatts from the Leyte plants when Yolanda happened on November 8. Then we automatically lost also about 760 megawatts, correct me if I'm wrong, from Limay, not Limay, Ilihan, because they were only producing 440 megawatts out of the rated capacity of 1,200 megawatts. Then we had 250 megawatts down for scheduled maintenance in Santa Rita and another 250 megawatts that blew up in June. So we already used up our reserve. How can anybody in his right mind say that we didn't know that we didn't have enough reserves? We already lost the 1,500. Yes, Mr. Ledesma.
Senator, can I just make a few comments? No. Number one, if I can comment on Honorable Senator Escudero's earlier remarks na kasi mahal yung Malaya, malulugi kayo, kaya hindi nyo pinatakbo kahit tutulong siya sa nangyari po. Ang comment ko po doon to this honorable committee is another sensitive issue is this universal charge. No, everyone is saying please try to limit the universal charge because that is going to be passed on to the consumers nationwide. I'd like to highlight po yung nationwide, no? Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao yan. Across the board, lahat ng tao magbabayad niyan. Lahat ng consuming public. Now, if we run Malaya, and I think everybody in this room is concluding that it's a losing plant, and madadagdagan po yung losses ng PISALM, ipapass on po namin yon sa stranded debt universal charge.
Teka muna, that's not Mandy. Totally beside the point. You kept Belaya because you would use it in an emergency. You knew it would be a losing proposition, and a losing proposition automatically means you're going to pass it on to the universal charge. So what kind of argument are you telling the committee?
Kasi
I kept the plant in case of an emergency. The emergency occurred, ayokong gamitin yung planta kasi I'm going to have to charge UC. Come on, that doesn't make sense to me.
Your Honor, if I can make my second comment. We tried since 2010 to bid out the plant po. We tried to bid it out.
Irrelevant rin yan. You did not. The secretary said he made the decision to keep the plant.
Kasi
so,
po-
so what?
Po, if I may, when we bidded it out, there were no takers. And then when I discussed it with Secretary Petilla, he suggested that we keep it as a security plant. Pero ang point ko po is, we tried to bid it out, but can we be blamed? Wala pong takers eh.
Hindi, we're not blaming you for keeping Malaya. We're saying you kept Malaya so it could have been made available during the period of emergency, the shortage. Now let me show you.
Po, can I make one last quick comment, Your Honor?
No. If you'll take a look here, the chart shows that the rates reach 62 pesos at certain times of the day, beginning November 11, 12. And it maintained that level until around December 10. All right? So nobody can tell the committee that the market was not signaling a shortage. It would be awfully idiotic of anybody who remembers his Economics 101 that it was not on December 4 or December 7 that all of a sudden NGCP says, uy pare, may shortage, patakbuhin mo naman yung Malaya.
Your Honor, my last comment lang po, then maybe I can allow, I don't know if it's President Mel or Secretary Petilla to comment on your last statement, no? If we may ask lang po, with all due respect to you, I'm just curious po, you mentioned earlier that if Malaya ran, we would have brought down, the prices would have been brought down by 20 pesos po. So po, with all due respect, pwede lang po ba matanong, paano nyo po na-determine yon na bababa yung presyo ng 20 pesos kung...
I will be glad to graph. I'm looking for it.
Thank you po.
I have about 100 graphs, so that I will have, but I would be glad to show that to you and to furnish the committee. That's a sensitivity analysis kasi as you go further along, nagiging steep yung mga offers. Because there are plants, we realize it, that there are plants that don't want to be dispatched. And so in order not to be dispatched, they will offer 62 pesos. Wag sana ako i-dispatch. I'm going to conserve my fuel for another day or for another week. That's understandable. Those are the rules, and it's very acceptable within the rules for plants to offer 62 pesos so that they will not be dispatched. As a matter of fact, one of the recommendations already of the committee will be to remove that must offer rule. We have to modify that because that creates a distortion, just like what happened. Everybody who didn't want to be dispatched bid 62, and when the shortage came, tumama ng 62. And that became the clearing price. So, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. We've got a lot of rules to tweak. But I'd like to give this opportunity to Senator Trillanes, who's been waiting patiently to ask questions. Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before I start my line of questioning, let me first discuss or give the status or the objectives of this investigation, so that we can have certain the policy actions to address the problem. Okay, first, we want to know what went wrong. So during the last hearing, more or less, we got the overview of the origins of the problem and the causes of the problem. However, whether there was a collusion or price manipulation, or the generators simply took advantage of what the system allowed, or Meralco had some hidden pass-on charges, that has yet to be established. So we are waiting for the investigation to be conducted by the ARC. And in fact, I'm actually surprised that ARC is conducting the investigation when, in my opinion, they're the biggest culprits here. you're supposed to safeguard the interest of the consumers. You allow this thing to happen. You have enough powers as stated in the IPIRA law, but you chose not to exercise it. You chose to look the other way, and now we have this big problem. It's a social problem, political problem, that is going to be a big burden to the consumers. Then next objective is once you get done by once you finish that investigation, we should be able to penalize those who erred, those who took advantage of the situation, those who wanted to pass hidden charges, on the side of the government. If it were up to me, I'd kick out all the members of the ERC and the PISAM for not doing their job. So, but it's not. So you're that the president has that stomach to tolerate such incompetence. Anyway, the third objective is to make sure that this thing will not happen again. Just to cite an example, if Malampaya will have an emergency shutdown, let's say tomorrow, are we prepared for that? Or will we be dealing with the same problem again? Okay? So in that regard, the reduction finally of the ceiling price from 62 to 32 should be able to minimize the impact. Then also the increase of reserves. Last time the DOE representative mentioned about reducing arbitrarily the reserve. So you should be able to do something about this at your level, Secretary Padilla. Then fourth objective, in the meantime, government should be able to absorb the effects of this market failure, and obviously it was the government regulators who are at fault for allowing this to happen. So we filed this bill expanding the uses of the Malampaya funds to include interventions or subsidies in cases of market failure, repair of damaged energy facilities, and so on and so forth. And also the security of Malampaya. So I'd like to ask Secretary Petilla, let me just state that this idea emanated from the President. So I know that he wants to do something about this problem. So Secretary Petilla, will this bill be certified as urgent?
I will recommend it that it be certified as an urgent bill, considering that it encompasses many uses of the fund and not limited to energy resource development only. Because, Senator, if we focus on energy resource development, there is actually limited things that we can do, considering it's private sector driven. So that's a very good bill.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. That's precisely the objective, and I'm glad that we are one on that. So the purpose of this bill is actually a favor to the power industry sector so that there won't be any defaults in payments. But we will have to make that nobody took advantage of the situation. So let me now go to first Meralco. During the last December hearing, you mentioned that the Meralco will pass on the charges, the excess charges from 566 to 910 based on the data that you provided. Am I correct, Ms. De La Peña?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes is here. Who will respond to? Okay.
Well, the difference is about 3 pesos and 44. And upon the guidance of the Energy Regulatory Commission, this was to be passed on in 3 tranches, 2 pesos per kilowatt hour, to be tucked in the generation charge for December billing. There will be none that will be included in the generation charge for January, but 1 peso will be included in the February generation charge, and the remaining of approximately 44 centavos to be included in the February in the March, in the March generation charge.
Okay, thank you very much. So the total is 415.
Well, we are just talking of the generation charge, Your Honor. It's at 344.
Yes, but to include the taxes and other fees, it will total 415.
415.
Okay. So you mentioned again, December, you'll pass on first the more than 2 pesos. Then January, you're not supposed to add on anything. February, 1 pesos. 1 peso increase, and then March around
44 centavos, Your
around
Honor.
44 centavos. So the impression created by that is the December billing, the consumers will experience an increase of around how much? 40% of their present bill. Okay, next, January, you mentioned there won't be any charge to be added. So the impression is it will revert back to the pre-Malampaya shutdown rates, which is 560. Okay? So now, how much is the actual you will pass on?
Your Honor, would like just to make a clarification. There was no add-on for the January 2014 generation charge because we expected the generation charge to be still high since the December supply month is still within the Malampaya shutdown.
Okay, can you give me a historical data on the rates of during January? Because remember, or for the January billing, which is supposed to be based on the December consumption. But remember, during December, we have these breaks. Most of the factories would shut down at least for several days because of the holidays. You have a cold weather, so the consumption for electric fan and air conditioning would drastically be reduced. And even in the Malampaya shutdown, in November, 19 days were covered. In December, only 10 days. Now, how much is your charge for December to be billed in January?
Again,
Can you state it?
Yes.
That's the question. You know the answer to that.
Well, the actual computation was 10 pesos and 23 centavos per kilowatt hour. That
Okay.
would be the generation charge.
10
But we
pesos
yeah.
and 23 centavos.
But we are billing our customers at 56673, which is the
Because
level.
of the TRO.
That's
Because of the
correct,
TRO.
Your Honor.
So in short, ganito po yan. Sinabi nila nung December tayo mag-i-increase. January wala. February meron. March meron. Pero what you're saying now is 10 pesos yung rate, which is even higher than the 9 peso and 10 centavo rate na ni-request nyo sa ERC na ipapass on nyo. So, nakita nyo yung gulong mangyayari dito, Ms. De La Peña? Ano ito? Kunyari walang TRO. Anong mangyayari dun sa billing nung January?
Well, Senator,
Yes.
if you may allow me, in the same manner that we approach ERC for guidance, when the generation charge reached 911 per kilowatt hour, I would say that we would do the same thing of seeking reference. But definitely, since there is already the the TRO, the Supreme Court, then we are billing our customers at 5.6. And another correction,
Yes,
Your
but
Honor.
it's a temporary thing.
Yes.
Eventually, if malift yung TRO, paano na yung 1023 ninyo?
Well,
Papasa ninyo yan sa consumers, am I correct?
Well, as mentioned.
Yes or no,
Well,
Ms. Lapena?
we have, but with clearance and the Energy Regulatory
Of course,
Commission.
hindi po yan eh. Yan ang tinatanong
Yes,
ko.
we will have
Alam
to-
nyo ho, yung 9 peso 10 centavos nga, halos magrevolusyon na dito eh. Tapos 10.23 pa. Alam nyo na nag-hearing tayo ng December, you knew that this will happen. Pero when I was confronting you with this, sinasabi nyo, no, we will not charge. Sinasabi ko na eh, na ganito yung plano ninyo. Remember, 19 days sa yung Malampaya shutdown covered 19 days of November. Na binil nyo nung December, so theoretically, dapat mas malaki yung ginastos nyo doon. Now, December, 10 na lang. 10 days na lang. Half the time na covered nung shutdown. Because December 11, yung Malampaya eh. So, supposed to be magno-normalize na yung presyo ninyo. Ay, theoretically. Okay.
Well,
Then, the consumption. Sinasabi ko nga, bigyan nyo ako ng historical data because year in and year out, ano ba ang consumption ng December to be billed sa January? Tumataas ba ang gamit ng kuryente or bumababa dahil malamig, wala gano'n nag-electric pa, nag-aircon, bakasyon, nagka-close down ng mga factory, yung mga pamilya pumupunta sa iba't ibang probinsya o nag-abroad. So, theoretically, it should not go up. Pero yung sinasabi nyo ngayon dito,
Yeah.
gagawin nyo pang 10 pesos. Doble. So, ang mangyayari ho, no, just to inform the general public, what Meralco intends to do, pag mawala na yung TRO, is kung ang billing mo dati, nung November, is 1,000 pesos, magiging 2,000 pesos na yan. Over and above dito sa sinisingil na ito. Ganun ho ba yun?
If I may clarify, Your Honor, the reckoning of the supply month is until the 25th of the month. So actually, there were more days in the December supply month covered by the Malampaya shutdown because it started from November 26 to December 25.
Okay, 14
Okay.
days. That
And-
will
and-
make it almost even. That
Okay.
will make it almost even. But let's talk about the consumption. At naghihiring tayo noon eh. Ni hindi nyo kami binigyan ng hint that this will, alam nyo na eh. You have an idea that ganito yung sisingilin nyo. Pero ang ini-request nyo kunyari sa ERC, ganito lang. 3 tranches, January wala kaming increase.
So January, we will not pass on any of the deferred costs.
But you will
Because
pass on the actual
the
cost.
actual-
So, nakita nyo yun? Na-imagine nyo yun? So, doble yung electric bill nila. Pero the impression that you're creating was, hindi kami mag-i-increase ng January. Walang increase. Hindi, dodoblehin namin yung ano.
Your Honor, if I can.
Yes.
Uh, I believe in the last hearing, and it was, I think, noted by the senators, that we had indicated in the last hearing, and it was noted by 1 or 2 of the senators, that the December supply month would in fact be higher than the November.
But
Hindi po
Mr.
namin-
Reyes, let me
Sir.
remind you, on record, you said, naglagay lang kami ng, ang estimate nyo was 7.37. That was your estimate. And it could go, even be lower. Yun yung statement nyo on record.
Hindi po.
Ay, nako. Sabi ko, anong plano nyo dito,
Yung 7
Chairperson Dukot? Anong plano nyo rito? They will be requesting for another round of increase.
Your Honor.
This time, what? Amounting to 5 pesos. So, doble ito.
Your Honor, if I may.
No, I'm not asking you, Mr. Reyes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in the event that ERC will receive the request, we will set it for deliberation of the commission, and the members of the commission will decide on it. I do not decide alone for the commission. It's a collegial
I
body,
hope
Your Honor.
this time hindi kayo magpaka-rubber stamp, Chairman Dukot. Can you give us that assurance?
Mr. Chairman, with due respect to your comment, we are not a rubber stamp
Ay, nako. Alam nyo, Chairman Ducot, matindi na ang galit ng mga consumers eh. Ngayon, ang sinasabi ko yung publiko na kayo, ultimately, ang may kasalanan kasi kayo dapat ang nagbabantay rito. Ngayon, ganito yung sinasabi ng Meralco, wala kayong magagawa. You will pass it on. Am I right, Mr. Reyes? Because the law allows you to do that.
Mr. Chairman, tama po,
Okay,
Your Honor.
tama yan.
Tama po yun.
Then,
Pero kung payagan nyo akong magpaliwanag
Hypothetical.
po.
No. You have to
ipakalat
listen
namin.
to my question. You have to answer my question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, hypothetically, kunyari umabot ng 100 piso per kilowatt hour. Sasabihin nyo, wala kami magagawa. We'll pass it on to the consumers. Di ba? Ganun lang ano nyo eh. You're trying to free yourself from the responsibility dito sa pagtaas. Remember, ganito ho yan, ano? Alam nyo kung bakit ko ini-stress ito? Do not underestimate the wrath of the people. Alam nyo, nung martial law, kaya tinake over yung Meralco, probably because ganito rin eh. Probably, I'm not sure. Baka dumating tayo sa ganon na masyadong ma-pressure ang mga politiko na i-nationalize na lang yung distribution. Monopoly naman yan. Kasi supposed to be, ideally or theoretically, the private sector is more efficient in operating businesses. But in this case, wala ho eh. You're not displaying any sign of efficiency.
Your Honor.
So, do not tempt. Huwag kayong basa-basa magpasa. Nakita nyo, dalawa na yung nag-check, nag-oversee. Aside from this, or tatlo na. Aside from the House, the Senate, ngayon pati Supreme Court, binabantay na kayo. So, sinasabi ko lang magkaroon kayo ng konsensya. Alam nyo yung pwede nyo sanang gawin to reduce the prices. So, nandiyan yan.
Your Honor,
Sige.
with all due respect,
Okay,
maraming
Mr.
salamat
Reyes.
po. Unang-una, nais po naming sabihin na we are very conscious of, I think, our consumers' interest and the impact. Kaya po namin sinikap na i-stagger yung increase. At in respect of the following month, ganun rin po yung gagawin namin na i-stagger in a way that maibsan yung impact on the consumer. Pero ito spike nito nung December at January, sa tingin namin aberration po ito. Dahil nagkaroon ng sabay-sabay na pag-shutdown ng major baseload power plants.
Okay.
In addition to Malampaya, marami pong...
So, in short, Mr. Reyes, you're blaming the power producers.
Hindi po. Sinasabi lang po ang totoo.
Okay
dahil,
nga, so hindi, sinasabi nyo, ang punto nyo, wala kayong kasalanan.
Hindi.
Right?
Well,
Hindi ho. That's the question. Meron ho ba kayong kasalanan? Wala.
sa amin wala.
Wala. So, sino ho may kasalanan? Sino? I want it at least stated for the record.
Hindi po natin alam kung yung mga shutdown, forced outages, ay mayroong kasalanan or ano ng estado ng equipment nila.
Okay. So,
Mahirap pong magsabi ng...
in short, you're pointing at the power producers.
Well, the reality, sir, Your Honor, is that in addition to Malampaya, nag-shutdown yung mga Malampaya facilities, nag-shutdown yung ibang mga gas-fired power plants.
Yes.
Nasabayan pa po ng maintenance ng ibang power plants. Tapos may additional shutdown, may extended shutdown. Ito po yung nasa record at bibigay po namin
Yun
sa
na nga
inyo.
ho. Ito nga sinasabi ko. Wala naman ho tayong disagreement doon. Sinasabi nyo, according to you, wala kayong kasalanan. Ang pinopoint ninyo is yung power producers.
Wala.
Pinapaikot nyo ho ako eh.
Hindi po, sinasabi lang namin yung...
Pinapasimple ko lang ho yung pasikot-sikot na statement ninyo.
Well, sinasabi lang po namin yung nangyari.
Kaya nga ho.
Mahirap po
So, ang may
ituro.
kasalanan, according to the view of Meralco, ang may kasalanan is...
The cause
The power producers.
Ayoko pong sabihin na may kasalanan. The cause are the shutdowns. Napakalaki po ng kapasidad ng generation na nawala sa system.
Well,
At
Well, anyway,
para mapaliwanag ko lang po, even in 2013, even with the 9 peso and 107 in December, yung pong kabuuan ng ng 2013, average is 5 pesos and 64 centavos per kilowatt hour. Mas mababa pa po yun kaysa nung average nung 22 pesos and 75 centavos. Kahit na idagdag natin yung 9107. Kaya ang aming mungkahi po at pakiusap, siguro tignan natin itong event nito as an isolated event. It's a non-occurring event. Parang parang ganun ang mangyayari sa
yun na nga po, Mr. Rez.
Kaya
If you were listening earlier, please, if you were listening earlier, one of the objectives of this committee hearing is to make sure that this thing will not happen again. On the part of the regulators, what they will do, the PISAM, the WESM, the PEMC, or the PEMC rather, then Meralco. Because the power producers will just be there, right? It's a constant. That's why only Meralco is a public utility and not the generation. Am I correct, Mr. Reyes?
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So we're trying to make sure that this thing will not happen again. Ngayon, kaya ito lahat nakatutok sa inyo kasi gusto namin malaman nyo na hindi nyo pwedeng ganun na basta-basta ipapasa na lang, recklessly, na como mataas sila, papasa nyo. Hindi, marami kayong ways na pwedeng gawin. There are so many ways na pwedeng nyo gawin. You can coordinate with ERC and whoever to make sure. Dahil nga sinasabi ko, huwag nyo i-underestimate. Kasi imagine niyo 10 pesos yan, no? Yung next na itataas niyan. Kayo rin ang tatamaan yan. Pag nagalit yan, ang taong bayan, at automatic mape-pressure ang mga policymakers, they may do something drastic. So do not tempt
We take the point, Your
Okay.
Honor. We take the point. At kung anong pwedeng gawin para sana hindi na maulit ito. Unang-una, siguro sa pagsa-shutdown ng mga planta, yung scheduling na shutdown, dapat hindi pagsabay-sabay. Ang nangyari po noong 2012 dahil sa eleksyon nung Mayo.
Ando na po tayo. It was explained
2013.
earlier. It was explained earlier, Mr. Reyes.
Yes, sir.
Ando
Sorry.
na po tayo. Ngayon, hindi ko mo sinabi 1023 yung kailangan yung ipasa na charge. We'll just take it as it is, at face value. Hindi ho. We need to audit it. We will audit it. So, for that matter, can you submit to us the pertinent financial documents to justify the 910 increase and the 1023 increase?
We will do that, Your Honor. We will provide you with
Okay.
with the necessary documents, including all the billings of our suppliers, all the shutdowns that happened, para maliwanag po na kung anong nangyari. Wala hong merong kagustuhan ito, ngunit nagkasabay-sabay talaga. So much capacity. Kung minsan sa isang araw, higit 2,000 megawatts ang nawala.
So titingnan po natin yan dun sa pag-audit natin ng inyong mga dokumento. Next, let me address Secretary Pitilla. Ano ho ba ang inyong plano? Ano pa bang napo-project natin? Ito bang in the next 2 years of the last 2 years of the Aquino administration, have we projected the demands and the corresponding supply that DOE is preparing for such an increase in demand?
Mr. Chair, we submitted, I think, in the last hearing that we had, DOE was asked to submit a projection of demand and supply. From now until 2016, okay, we have the list that I have right now is the list of committed plants, okay, and there's a total of roughly around 1,400 megawatts na lalabas. Ang demand natin in the Luzon area is growing at a rate of about 600 to 700 megawatts per year. So 1,400, and then meron pang hindi committed. Pag sinabing committed kasi, Mr. Chair, is ito'y nag-submit na ng mga pertinent documents at nagko-construct na talaga. But there are also two plants who indicated that they're also coming up with plans to be finished. Yung dalawang planta na to will be finished before the end of the term of President Aquino. And this is about 514 megawatts. And then another entity mentioned that they are also going to expand another plant by 500 megawatts. And these two plants na pumapasok, totaling 1,000, na hindi kasama sa 1.4, wala silang mga kontrata. In other words, walang off-takers. Usually kasi pag nagbubukas ng planta, meron ng kontrata sa mga DUs. In this case, wala silang, itong additional walang kontrata. They're actually looking at the market and at the open access.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Secretary Pitilla. Just like to inquire regarding the energy situation in Tacloban. Meron na ho bang kuryente sa Tacloban City?
Meron tayong kuryente in the town proper. We are from 2 weeks ago na mga 5% ng Tacloban may kuryente. We're moving towards about 15%, okay, as of yesterday. Our plan is by the end of February, they should be 80% complete. March, they should be 100% complete. Pero on the condition that the houses are ready for energization. Ibig sabihin, may roofing na sila. Yung ibang nalubog sa dagat, they have to redo their wiring, for example.
So let me just correct the impression that the 97-98% was this electricity? Yes. What was that?
In
Status?
90% restoration.
Restoration. Yes. So it's not entirely true in that regard because they still need to what?
Ganito po yan, Mr. Chair. Ang nangyari dito is that we told them that by December 24, there will be electricity in the town center. At ang target natin is basically hospital, number 1, City Hall, of course, at saka mga vital installations na kailangan talaga ng kuryente. When we mentioned that, we also told them that pagdating sa bahay, hindi na problema ng mga kooperatiba yan because pag nagpatayo ka ng bahay, ikaw naman talaga nag-aayos ng wiring mo. So we told them be prepared. As of December 5, meron ng kuryente sa Tacloban pero wala pang nagpaayos na bahay. And that's why we could not really reconnect them. We tried to. Actually, merong isang bahay na medyo umusok, pinilit namin. So we went back and said, you have to get Bureau of Fire. So walang nag-apply. We sent out 100 applications, walang bumalik. Pero pagkadating naman ng January, nagsabay sa apply. And that's why we have a backlog. So it's just a matter of timing, but the cooperative is actually contracting and they should be able to finish everything by end of March.
Okay. Then
Mr. Chair, with the permission of Senator Trillanes,
please,
it's a
please.
related question.
Please.
I understand that Bohol is also dependent on the power supply coming from Tacloban. So can he also update us on how Bohol and any other areas are affected and how it will be addressed?
Bohol was actually down because of the earthquake on October. We restored it in about 8 days. Na-restore na sila lahat. And then when they were enjoying power, we were hit by Typhoon Yolanda. And because the power of Bohol, their only line going to the grid is actually Leyte and Bohol. That went down as well. But even if that didn't go down, wala namang kuryente because Unified Leyte, the geothermal, actually went down as well. So we tried to bring back, and GCP and the cooperatives tried to bring it back as quickly as we can, including EDC, na may-ari ng planta, we did project to them that because of the extent of the damage, ang sabi ko kay Governor Chato is that you're looking at next summer. Was cried. But when we assessed everything, meron pala kaming power na pwedeng ibigay ang EDC at that time about 145 megawatts at ang NGCP binilisan nila na ayos nila ang connection between Leyte and Bohol. Before the end of November, I called Governor Chato and told him, you will have power but we have a problem. And he said, what is the problem? You will have rotating brownout about 4 hours. And he said, kahit 8 hours, basta may kuryente. So we're able to put it back before the end of November. And right now, the power situation that they have right now is more or less stable as EDC is bringing back its power from 0 to 520. Their assurance is June 30, but I told them if they can bring it up back by March. I'm not sure what is the status right now, and if perhaps, Mr. Chair, with your permission, if we can ask EDC to also answer the power situation of the geothermal.
I think that will follow after my questioning. Anyway, Secretary Petilla, pwede bang pakitutukan na lang ito? Yung mga kababayan natin na walang kuryente, talagang inaasam-asam po yung itong sila, ma-restore yung kanilang kuryente. So magkaroon tayo sana ng kumbaga, I'm sure you're doing you're doubling your effort, but please kunin natin yung mga tao natin sa baba para ma-restore. Yes.
Mr. Chair, actually, one of the fastest restoration in the world is what we're doing actually right now.
Yes, and I commend you for that, Secretary Petilla. Yun lang, don't let up. Yun ang sinasabi ko dito.
Sige po.
And yung yung sa mga electric cooperatives, kasi Meralco lang yung natututukan, but apparently lahat ng, or at least sa Luzon wide, yung mga ibang electric cooperatives ganun din. So sana matignan natin yung mga kanilang mga respective requests for rate hikes para siguraduhin natin na tama. Tapos kung maipapasa po natin itong ating bill, hindi na kailangan problemahin po ng mamamayan itong temporary setback na ito para ma-solve na natin yung problema in the meantime. So, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Angara.
Salamat po, Mr. Chairman. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat. May mga tanong po ako sa DOE at saka sa ERC, sa ating kaibigan si Secretary Petilla. Ang napag-usapan na ho yung specifics nung nangyari nitong Nobyembre at Disyembre. Pero ang concern ko siguro yung mas malaking picture, the big picture going forward ho. Kasi ang sabi ho ng isang pag-aaral is that by 2030, ang pangangailangan ho sa Luzon grid ay nasa 10,000 megawatts. Tama ho ba yun?
Mr. Chair, is that additional or?
Total, I think.
Total. Actually, the total that we have right now, ang supply natin is already 11,400.
It must be additional then for 2030. Yun ang sabi ng isang pag-aaral. And breakdown nila na starting 2016, kailangan natin mag-generate ng panibagong capacity kada taon ng 600 megawatts. Tama ho ba yung mga figures na yun?
Tama po yan, Mr. Chair.
So siguro yung alinsunod sa mga sinabi ng mga kasamahan ko, gusto natin bigyan ng parang assurance yung ating mga kababayan na hindi sila mabubulaga at mapagpaplanuhan nila yung pagtaas ng presyo ng kuryente. Kung sana nga maiwasan ho natin talaga yung pagtaas dahil yun po yung pangako nung pagbago ng batas at pagsasapribado ng power sector. So, ano ho yung mga plano natin going forward to ensure yung adequate capacity? Kasi nakita ho natin, pag nagkukulang ho ating reserba, talagang nagtataas, nagkakaroon ng oportunidad na hindi natin alam kung sinadya o nagkataon lamang na tumaas talaga at nagsabayan yung tigilan po ng pag-operate ng mga power plants. But ano ho yung plano natin to ensure na yung hindi magagambala ho yung paglaki ng ating ekonomiya at yung kabutihan ng ating mga mamamayan?
Ang mga plantang dinadagdag natin ngayon, Senator, is actually coming from the private sector. Okay, kung titingnan natin kahit yung mga plantang na itayo na bago at mga nasa plano natin na itatayo pa, are actually coming from the private sector. At ang trabaho ng DOE is to make sure na environment for investment is nandyan without actually sacrificing also the welfare of the people, kung tutuusin. Ini-encourage natin ang private sector at kung meron tayong environment na pwedeng paglagyan at ma-encourage sila, ginagawa natin. Example dito is itong WESM. Kasi kung wala kang kontrata, this is actually one way of encouraging players na kung wala kang full contract, yung part ng planta mo, pwede mo ilagay sa WESM. But there has to be a demand also at nagpo-project rin sila. Isa sa pinakamahirap na sabihin na lang natin na-encounter nila is yung iba-ibang mga problema sa permitting. For example, may ibang mga planta lumapit na sa amin na nahirapan sila to deal with LGUs, tinutulungan rin namin. And other government agencies kung saan medyo sumasabit sila paminsan-minsan. We actually, in a way, help them out. But at the same time, meron din tayong tinatawag na open access na kung saan ang lahat ng mga 1 megawatt pwede nang kumalas sa kanilang mga distribution utility, and this gives the power plant additional customers kasi usually ang customer lang nila is basically ang DUs kasama ang Meralco dito. Na ngayon, napapalawak na rin natin. So the items that are discussed in the PIRA are intended to increase investment on the power generation. At ito'y tinutulak natin, ini-implement natin to the fullest if we can.
I can believe that, Secretary, kasi you brought a lot of investments to your home province of Leyte when you were the governor. Pero ma-assure niyo ho ba yung publiko na talagang itong kapasidad na mga nakakailanganin ay mamimit ho natin? Can you categorically say that there will be no problems with supply for the next, alam ko, malamang hanggang 2016 ho kayo, pero ano ho yung plano? Kailangan medyo mahaba yung pananaw ho natin di ba?
Ito ang mahirap dito because as far as we're concerned dito sa ahensya namin is our job is to lay out the environment for investment. But the actual investment will really come from the private sector.
Yes. Paulit-ulit niyo sinabi yun. We know that because that's the mandate of the imperial law to privatize. The government is no longer building power plants, so we know that. But yung tanong ho natin, you are the gatekeeper taga-traffic ho kayo Kung mabagal ho ang traffic, mabagal ho ang takbo, mabagal ang takbo ng planta. So yun ang tanong ho namin. I'll go to my next question, which is, ano yung steps ho natin? Because at the moment, I was told that there are over 100 approvals necessary. So, 100 approval o signature para ng bagong power facility. Is this true ho?
Actually, from the last count I had was 165.
165 ho. So talagang hindi ho nakakagulat na kung bakit nandito tayo sa sitwasyon ho na ito. So ano ho yung plano natin going forward na mabago ho yun? Kailangan ba ng batas dyan o kaya nyo at your level na tugunan ho ng pansin niya?
Siguro malaking bagay kung merong mga planta na kakailanganin natin because this is really, in a sense, it will affect the public. Na kung meron tayong mga priority projects, although this is actually private sector driven pa rin, kung meron tayong mga projects that can be certified as really urgent because we need them right away. Lalo na kasi ang mga planta, 4 na taon bago maitayo. Hindi ito parang generator na pwede lang hilain, and it takes time to actually build them, and we cannot avoid delay. Kasi kung may delay tayo, pwedeng magkulang tayo. So kung merong sigurong batas na pwedeng sabihin na lang natin, mapabilis ang permitting ng mga plantang talagang sinicertify natin na kailangan natin at a certain time.
But yung matter of permitting ho, hindi ho nasa batas ho yun, di ba? Nasa administrative level ho yun.
We are conferring with actually other government agencies. Ang sinabi nga dati, bakit hindi kayo magtayo ng one-stop shop? Ang sagot namin doon is that hindi kami parang business permitting 200 clients a day. This is more like paisa-isa sa isang linggo na papasok. So ang ginawa namin dito is that we created a department na kung saan tutulong sa mga investors, hindi lang sa power plants, kasama yung mga exploration, na kung saan ang permitting na problema nila ang mag-handle kung kakayanin namin is yung DOE. Because there are also other aspects na mas mabilis ang private sector gumalaw sa permitting kaysa sa gobyerno.
Sino ho ang pinuno nung department na yon na create ho ninyo?
Si Miss Lisa Go, isang bureau.
Can we ask for a report kung ano yung mga hakbang na ginawa para ma-shorten ho yung period to set up a power plant ho?
We will submit it to you, Mr. Chair.
Tsaka yung binanggit niyo pong 165, Mr. Chairman, kung makahingi tayo ng detailed list of what are the 165 approvals necessary ho.
We will do so, Mr. Chair.
Kasi nga ho, meron tayong PEZA ho, di ba? Yung talagang one-stop shop ho yun sa mga foreign investors. Kaya very successful ho eh. You can do the equivalent ho para sa power sector if you set up that equivalent. Yung talagang hinahandhold ho. Alam ko ho, marami talagang may gusto mag-invest sa power sector because it's been very lucrative for the last decade or 2 decades. So, ang sunod na tanong ko ho eh, tungkol sa renewable energy. Kasi ako'y pangalawang termino ko pa ho sa Kamara de Representante as a congressman in 2008. We passed the renewable energy law. And up to now, there is no there are incentives given para mas maging atraktibo po yung sektor at dumami ho yung magpo-provide ng kuryente. Ano ho yung updates ho natin sa renewable energy? I remember marami hong nagsasabi na ito ay prioridad ho ng DOE ngayon.
Tama po yan, Mr. Chair. Ang unang ginawa natin dito is actually yung ako'y umupo sa posisyon na to. Tinanong ko kung gaano katagal ang pagkuha ng service contract for renewables. At ang sagot sa akin, we can only output 15 a month. At ang total applicants was about 300. So about 2 years. Sabi ko, bakit? Kasi maraming mga analysis na gagawin. In short, ang ginawa natin dito, we came up with a process na ang siniset namin na deadline is 45 days. Dapat nakalabas na. 45 days, it is going to be approved. Ang tanong naman nila, baka naman magdagsaan ang mga service contract pero hindi itutuloy. Hinahawakan lang for 25 years, pagkatapos hindi nila tinutuloy. Sabi ko naman dito, in the contracts that we have, we will approve you 45 days, but within 6 months, pag wala kami nakita, we will cancel it outright.
It's easily answerable. You can put a provision that you use it or you lose it. Di ba?
That is correct. Okay. And sabi nga namin, paano natin ngayon titingnan ito lahat kasi ang dami nito, pag-monitor nito. Isa ang number 1 criteria namin, kung meron ka ng ginastos. Kasi pag sinabi mo ang project mo is so much, pero mag-aanim na buwan na, wala ka pang ginagawa, wala kang ginagastos, then we actually cancel it. In fact, dati, binibigyan muna sila ng notice, pero nilagay namin sa kontrata nila that they are the ones who's going to provide us information that they've really started, otherwise we will cancel it. Isa pang ginawa natin dito is, meron tayong fifth FIT, which medyo may katagalan na rin ito, pero in-implement natin right away pag upo natin dito. Although the method of which we actually approve this, maraming nagko-question. Pero at this point, as far as solar and wind is concerned, oversubscribed tayo. This is the FIT. But aside from the FIT, meron din tayong tinatawag na Renewable Energy Act. However, this is actually, isang nakalagay Renewable Energy Act is basically, merong tayong batas na sinasabi na ang renewables pagdating sa power is must dispatch. Ibig sabihin, pagdating sa WSM, kailangan ilabas mo na siya kaagad. But we don't have an IRR at the moment. Wala tayong IRR. That's one thing we actually looked into na kung wala tayong IRR, paano natin to implement it, encourage yung mga investors natin. So ang ginawa natin dito is basically, we intend to launch together with ERC, at ito'y sigurado kung ma-aprobahan naman nila, ang reserve market. Then 2 months after, ang must dispatch IRR. Bakit mauuna ang reserve market? Because ang renewables are all intermittent. Bagamat sinasabi na must dispatch ito, kailan lumabas, ang gusto rin namin is that ang mga players natin, ang investors natin na magpapatayo ng planta, they should also be responsible for the projection of their output. Kasi kung hindi ito mamamanage ang projection, mahirap talaga i-manage ang ang power situation natin. So we will actually ask them to also look into managing their own projections. Pag hindi sila nag-meet for some reason, they get ancillary or backup power, kaya kailangan natin ng reserve market. So they go hand in hand. Fast track po namin ito ngayon.
Can you give us a deadline for the full implementation, including the formulation of rules and the availment of the FIT?
The FIT actually is tapos
It's in effect,
na ang
fully in effect.
it's in effect na yan, fully in effect yan.
So ilan ho ang nabigyan ho nun?
Hindi tayo nagbibigay ngayon, Mr. Chair, because ang ginagawa natin is it's a race. Kung sinong mauna, yun ang bibigyan namin. So
Di
ang
ba, sobra na yung mga aplikante dyan?
kung sobra ng aplikante, that's why binibilisan rin namin ang reserve market tsaka mass dispatch rule. Kasi kung sobra na, they can put it in the WSM. Hindi na fit, pero market-based na sila. But we have to have the right environment, and that's why we're fast-tracking all of these things.
So can we ask for a deadline from you to see that there's a full implementation of the law that we ginawa ho natin 6 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, the reserve market, Mr. Chair, will the date that we put in place is March 26th of this year, and then 2 months after is the mass dispatch rule in the WSM.
Thank you, Secretary. Dito naman ho sa ERC, sa issue ho ng price supplements, sinabi kanina ni Secretary Petilla na wala silang kopya ng mga PSAs. Kayo ho ba may mga kopya kayo?
Yes, Mr. Chair, because these contracts are submitted to ERC for approval.
Hindi ba kayo nag-uusap ni Secretary Petilla?
Yes, we coordinate with the Department of Energy, sir.
Eh bakit sinabi ho niya na wala ho siyang kopya nung ano? Hindi ba madali na hingi niya lang sa inyo tapos bigay niya lang sa kanya yung price supply agreements?
Yes, Mr. Chair. And in fact, in the WSM rules, under Chapter 3:13, actually the market participants, they submit the bilateral contract data so that the bilateral contract quantities can be determined and also those sold under WSM. But if the contracts will be needed by the Department of Energy, then we can always provide them.
Siguro bigyan niyo na ho kasi narinig na ho na buong bansa na wala silang kopya.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
upon the assumption to office of Secretary Petilla, he already asked copies of these PSAs, and our office provided him a copies of the PSAs.
So may kopya sila. Okay. Etong mga PSAs, meron ho bang panukala ang ERC na pro-protect yung mga consumers at end users ng kuryente sa yung mga price spikes? Kunyari, lumabas ho dun sa mga kinontratang kuryente. Meron ba ho bang regulations doon?
Sa ngayon po, wala po kasi dahil yung provisions ng PSA will vary. Some PSAs would provide for provisions on replacement power wherein yung generator, kung lalampas na dun sa allowable outages na napagkasunduan nila, they can source replacement power pero at cost na of the off-taker of the DU.
Can you give us a report on ano yung mga provisions na yon sa PSAs, sa power supply agreements on uncontracted supply? Ano yung mga contingent provisions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can provide those.
Naisipan ba ng ERC na gumawa ng rules dyan? Kung sakaling to prevent yung volatility nga, para hindi na umabot ng 62 pesos, ganon. Parang requiring DUs to procure a certain percent of their generated power.
Mr. Chair, it is one of the proposed EPIRA amendments that we are drafting for submission to the appropriate bodies. Right now, there is no mandated WSM purchases. DUs were mandated to get at least 10%. But that 10% still is a huge exposure of the DUs in the WSM considering the market volatilities. So perhaps that can be also considered that the WSM purchases of distribution utilities will be limited only to a certain fixed percentage or to, depending on their demand, to a fixed megawatt hour.
Sinasabi niyo ho na kailangan amyendahan po yung EPIRA para mag-formulate ho kayo ng regulations as to the contracted power supply?
As to the regulations on PSAs, in evaluating the PSAs, we can issue the appropriate guidelines on how the ERC will determine the generation pass-through. In fact, there is pending with ERC right now the draft rules on the evaluation of power supply agreements, and these draft guidelines are scheduled for public consultation this February, sir.
Siguro nga, pag-isipan natin yung pagre-regulate nun. Kung nasa kapangyarihan nyo naman ho ba't di na lang natin gawin? Kasi alam nyo naman yung proseso po ng pag-aamyenta ng batas, matagal ho yan Papasa pa sa dalawang kamara yan, hindi ba? Sa inyo, consultation, approval ng mga commissioners. So sana matugunan ho natin ang pansin yan para hindi masyadong sumisipa yung presyo dahil pinapasa ho sa consumers yan
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will look into that.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Senator Escudero is recognized.
Thank you, Mr.
After
Chair.
Senator Escudero will be Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator JV, and last but not least, Senator Alan Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few points. Mr. Secretary, if I may address this to the representative of Malampaya. Is it true that the scheduled outage or planned outage of Malampaya was supposed to be sometime in the summer of 2013? Only that, given that it's election time, either COMELEC or DOE told the plants na wala tayong brownout sa election kaya dapat yung outages nyo ilipat sa ibang buwan. Do we have a representative from Malampaya? No? Secretary Petila, please.
I think they can answer this better than I can because they set the date. But as far as I can remember, wala po tayong schedule ng Malampaya shutdown 2013.
But for the elections of 2013, I heard Mr. Reyes say a while ago na nagkasabay-sabay kasi election. Dahil, I presume, Mr. Reyes, the presumption there was yung mga planned outages ng summer, supposedly for the elections, pinagpaliban muna dahil election noong 2013. Was there such a move?
Mr. Chair, I think what Mr. Oscar Reyes was referring to was not the Malampaya shutdown, but the scheduled shutdown of the plants.
Of the other plants?
Of yung mga power plants rather than the Malampaya platform.
Sino po yung nagbigay ng utos na yon na ibahin yung scheduled maintenance ng mga power plants para maiwasan yung election? I understand the purpose, syempre para walang brownout sa election.
We recommended that they actually not maintain, not only because election, it's also summertime, malakas ang konsumo natin dito, na kung po pwede ilipat sa mga lean months.
But they already know that, Mr. Secretary. I presume, di ba, kung ako DOE, meron akong listahan ng mga planta, once a year, roughly, kailangan nila mag-shutdown for maintenance. So nakaplano yung maintenance nila. Year on year for the next 10 to 20 years. Di ba? All of a sudden change the timing of the plant shutdown, mababago na rin po at biglang magkakasabay-sabay dahil kung ako yung nagpaplano, hindi ba? Naka-plant shutdown si plant A ng January, si plant B ng February, basta in total ko, hindi pa rin magkukulang yung supply. Is there such a plan or a chart that would guide us accordingly para never tayo makarating sa ganitong similar na situation?
Meron tayong tinatawag, Mr. Chair, na GOMP. Okay, ang nag-handle talaga ng mga scheduling nito is the entity that sees the entire supply and demand. Ang kumbaga nagta-traffic talaga, this is NGCP. Lahat ng mga pagpapaalam dito is kinukonfirm muna sa NGCP. And if they feel that they have enough supply, kasi sila rin ang gumagawa ng daily demand forecasting, makikita nila na kung po pwede o hindi.
Sir, I understand that, but do power plants, the generating companies, actually ask the permission of NGCP as SO when they can have a plant shutdown? I don't think they do. Sila ho ba ang pinagpapaalaman kung kailan sila pwede mag-shutdown?
Nag-i-inform sa kanila, Mr. Chair.
Nag-i-inform, pero sa kanila ba nagpapaalam? Meaning they can say, no, you cannot do a
Yes, they can say that. Unless naman merong iba na sinasabi na wala na talaga kaming magagawa kasi if we do not shut down at this point, mas malaki ang epekto. sa sira.
Actually, the point I'm driving at, Mr. Secretary, is in 2016, may election na naman tayo. In 2019, meron na naman. In 2022, meron na naman. Hopefully, we are looking forward already to that time na kung iiwasan talaga natin, kung ang summer talaga, you need not have given the order actually even last summer na. Lean month yan, election yan, it should be automatic already. None of the plants should be scheduling plant shutdowns at that time. That should be a standard operating procedure already, I would presume.
Actually, Mr. Chair, ina-anticipate na nila yan. Kaya iniiwasan rin nila na mag-maintain talaga. Some of them actually, before pa namin sabihan, iniiwasan na nila yan. Unless talaga hindi maiiwasan, then they have to justify.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. My next question, if I may proceed. Before leaving the Malaya plant, just a question, Mr. Sapalaran, sir. Sabi nyo kanina, 16 hours bago ma-switch on yung Malaya. Hindi po ba? Sige po, lunukin nyo muna. Baka ano kayo. Sige po.
Yes, Your Honor. It takes about 14 to 16 hours for the plant to be synchronized to the grid.
At pag tumatakbo na, nalulugi na kayo, di ba? Sabi nyo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kaya nag-economic shutdown kayo para hindi malugi.
Yes, Your
Ika nga ni Mr. Ledesma, hindi lumaki yung papasa sa consumer. Hindi
Yes,
po ba? Now, when you made an offer, nung sinabi nyo nag-45 peso offer kayo, was the plant running at that time?
No, Your Honor, it was not.
So how can you make an offer on the hour, by the hour, if the plant was not running and it takes 14 to 16 hours to start the plant? Aren't you violating some sort of rule na paano nga naman kayo i-dispatch, maski na gusto kayong i-dispatch ng SO, kung aabutin kayo ng 14 na oras bago mag-start?
Well, if NGCP would like to run as a must-run unit for tomorrow, today it would request us to start the plant for at least before the synchronizing hour tomorrow.
But sir, as you said, you made the offer and the plant was not yet running.
In the market, there is a rule that if to get scheduled or considered in the USM dispatch, you have to submit a bid the day ahead, and before that, you also have to be synchronized to grid before the market dispatch optimization model includes you in that dispatching process. So that before the actual date of operation, you will already have to prepare the plant 16 hours before to be ready to be synchronized and start operation by the next day.
Sir, so pag nag-bid kayo ng kahit na magkano, sure na madi-dispatch kayo? Not necessarily.
If you are synchronized to the grid and you have a bid, then you will be included in the dispatching process.
For sure you will be dispatched or no?
There are two cases in that. The plant, there is a minimum stable load for a plant. That is, if you have submitted a bid, immediately when you are synchronized, you go to your minimum stable load and wait there until you are scheduled for dispatch to a higher capacity. If you are a diesel plant where your Pmin is 0, you need not synchronize immediately because it only takes a few hours for you to synchronize with the
In
grid.
your case, you need 14 hours. So ang tinatanong ko nga po, pag tinawagan kayo ng NGCP, nag-bid kayo ng 45, alam nyo na kung madi-dispatch o gagamitin kayo?
That is a different case, Your Honor. What we are saying, if we are not included in the market, if we have not submitted a bid and we are not part of the dispatch process, we can be called upon by NGCP to run as a must-run unit. So, if NGCP determines that tomorrow there will be insufficiency of...
Pansamantala po muna natin puputulin ang nagaganap na Senate hearing on power rate hike upang magbigay daan sa magaganap na mahalagang press conference sa Palasyo ng Malacanang.
A pleasant Thursday noon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the press briefing of Presidential Communications Secretary Sonny Coloma.
Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Maikli lang aking unang pahayag. According to the latest SWS survey, the President received higher satisfaction ratings among those affected by Typhoon Yolanda compared to those who were outside the calamity areas. It is gratifying that those who suffered greatly appreciate what their President and government have done to ease their pain and alleviate their plight, despite the shortcomings and challenges still being hurdled. We are inspired by this manifestation of support to government's continuing efforts to help them rebuild their lives and build disaster-resilient communities. Handa na po akong sagutin ang inyong mga katanungan.
Do we have a follow-up question on the statement of Secretary Coloma? Okay, none. Weng de la Fuente of Net25, other issues.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, Akbayan representatives filed complaint before the Office of the President against the ERC chairperson, Zenaida Ducot. They're asking the President to dismiss her because of incompetence and yun nga daw po, hindi niya naprotektahan yung interest ng tao dun sa power rate hike.
Hinggil po dyan, may itinakdang proseso sa mga ganitong uri ng reklamo. Hihintayin natin ang pagpapasya ng tanggapan ng Pangulo tungkol dito.
Pero sir, would the palace consider asking her to temporarily leave her post pending the investigation?
Sa pagkaalam ko po, hindi po ito required.
So, sir, follow up. Wala tayong nakikitang problema po kasi 'di ba si Chairperson Ducot has a term of office. So, wala hong nakikitang problema na imbestigahan siya ng Office of the President.
Meron naman pong itinakdang proseso, kabilang po sa prosesong ito ay yung pagtalima sa prinsipyo ng due process. Bibigyan po siya ng karapatang sagutin ang mga paratang laban sa kanya.
On the same topic, do we have any questions? Okay, other issues? Florante Rosales of DZRH.
Secretary, magandang tanghali po.
Magandang tanghali.
Ano po ba yung impormasyon na tatanggap ng Palasyo ng Malacanang mula sa ating Department of Foreign Affairs sa kondisyon ng ating mga kababayan sa Malaysia sa isinasagawa ng crackdown ngayon?
Ito po ang pinakahuling update ng DFA according to Assistant Secretary Raul Hernandez. Ito po ang pinadala niyang text message. So far, we have not received any from our embassy in Malaysia. End of text message. Kung meron mang mga bagong ulat hinggil dito, patuloy tayo makikipag-ugnayan kay Ambassador Eduardo Malaya para makakuha ng kaukulang updates.
Ang experience o yung pong ulat niyan ay kabaliktaran doon sa experience mismo ng aking kapatid doon sa Malaysia. Legal OFW po siya, architect po siya, the project manager sa isang proyekto. Sila po ay ni-round up, dinala sa ng mga jail sa isang Malaysian detention facility at para daw po silang sardina sa loob ng jail, magdamag na karamihan nakaupo lang sa pagtulog at dikit-dikit pa sila at walang space para makahinga, tapos sa sahig ang tulugan at sobrang init. Tapos ang sabi po niya nung pinahihiwala yung mga undocumented at saka yung mga legal, yung po mga kapatid ko po mismo nagsabi na binugbog po sila at parang sinampal ng magkabilang kamay ulo niya, pinompyang. Tapos pasensya na po kayo, personal po kasi ito kaya medyo nanginginig yung boses ko eh. Pinipilit na aminin na wala silang documents. Yung mga dinadala doon sa kulungan, pag no daw ang sagot, binubugbog. Kapag sumagot ng yes, saka lang sila ibabalik sa selda. Tapos patatagalin doon ng almost 2 months bago ilipat sa Kimanis para maghintay ng travel documents. Yung iba tumatagal doon ng 8 to 10 months pero hindi naman kasama doon sa unang crackdown ng mga Pinoy na nagkaroon ng terrorism yung sa Sultan yung kay Sultan Kiram na issue, hindi sila related doon. Bakit po ganun ang reaction ng DFA natin na mismong yung mga kamag-anak po namin na nandun, mga kasamahan nila, legal po sila, may mga papel, pero pilit pong pinaamin na wala silang dokumento ng mga Malaysian authorities.
Okay, salamat sa pagbibigay pansin no, dyan sa specific na complaint pertaining to your brother. Pagbibigay alam po natin ito sa ating Department of Foreign Affairs at kay Ambassador Eduardo Malaya. Yung kasing paghahatid, yung pahatid na mensahe kanina was about a general situation. No? Pinasa ko sa Department of Foreign Affairs, yun naman yung kagyat nilang reaction pertaining to an overall situation. No? Pero kung pwede sanang maibigay yung mga detalyeng yan para magkaroon ng action from the Philippine Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. No? Nakatitiyak naman po ako na bibigyan yan ng priority attention ng ating ambassador. Nagkaroon na rin po ako ng pagkakataon na makapunta doon at sa akin naman pong obserbasyon ay nagtatakda ng priority attention ng ating embahada doon. Malaman lang no, kung ano yung mga partikular na kaso ng panggigipit o pananakit no, na walang katuwiran at walang katarungan. Kailangan lang pong may pagbigay alam ito sa ating mga opisyal doon para magawan po ng karampatang aksyon.
Ito po yung isa sa mga mensahe niya through Facebook. Pakitawagan mo naman ang ambassador, paimbestigahan mo yung consul ng Malaysia. Humingi ka ng tulong kay Pinoy dahil wala silang ginagawang tulong sa mga Pinoy na nakakulong sa loob. Karamihan, may mga sakit, yung mga babae nire-rape ng Malaysian jail guards. Yun po yung, yung mga information na galing sa kanila eh.
Sige po, no? Salamat sa impormasyon. Ako mismo ay makikipag-ugnayan kay Ambassador Ed Malaya. Kilala ko po siyang personal dahil siya rin ang dating spokesman ng Department of Foreign.
Pwede po ba nating i-recall yung mga official natin sa embassy doon para magpaliwanag dito sa atin tungkol doon sa mga pangyayari doon? Kasi po hindi kami naniniwala na ganun talaga na wala silang tatanggap ng mga ganong report. Ito po talagang personal information.
Nagsabi nito ay yung spokesperson nila ngayon dito. No? Kaya maigi siguro na ilahad natin yung mga particular, yung mga specifics no, tungkol dyan para ma-call ang attention ng ating embassy sa Malaysia. Baka po yung naging reply kanina ay dahil general yung tanong. No? Pero kung specific, hanapan po natin ng paliwanag.
So hindi naman nagpapabaya ang ating gobyerno para doon sa mga tinatawag nating bagong bayani na siyang tumutulong sa pag-unlad nating ekonomiya.
Sa bawat pasuguan po or embassy, sa bawat consulate, isa sa mahalagang tungkulin ng mga nakatalagang opisyal doon ay yung tinatawag na assistance to foreign nationals. No? Ito ay kakaibang requirement sa ating diplomatic corps dahil nga doon sa realidad na napakaraming Pilipinong nagtatrabaho no, sa ibang bansa at atid po natin na malaki ang kanilang sakripisyo, kaya nga po tinuturing natin silang mga bagong bayani ng ating republika.
Huling tanong na lang, Ginoong Kalihim. Ito pong, may tuturing po ba natin na paglabag sa international human rights itong ginawa ng Malaysian authorities? At pwede ho ba tayo mag-file ng case?
Kailangan lang na mailahad yung mga specifics no? At masuri ng Department of Foreign Affairs yan. No? Dahil seryoso no? Itong mga alegasyon na ito at kinakailangan na maipakita natin na may sapat na batayan no? At makatuwiran yung paglalahad ng pananakit at paggawa ng karahasan laban sa ating mga mamamayan. Hindi naman po natin maaring we cannot tolerate violation of basic human rights that would be perpetrated upon our own citizens.
Maraming salamat.
Salamat din sa pagbibigay pansin sa seryosong bagay na yan.
Raymond Tinasa o Bombo Radio?
Sir, but just to press on, can you actually send an order to the FA or to the embassy, a team to verify the information, such very serious one, to actually counter-check? I understand it might be our officials, I don't know, but they might just be acting as armchair in Kuala Lumpur and not in the area, example in Kota Kinabalu.
Ang aking alam ay inilalapit yung serbisyo doon sa pinakamaraming konsentrasyon ng ating mga kababayan. At batid naman natin na ang pinakamarami dyan ay doon talaga sa Sabah. No? Doon maraming Pilipino dahil yun ang pinakamalapit na lugar. No? Tumatawid lang sila mula sa Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, no? patungo doon. No? Ang atensyon po, ang priority attention ng ating Department of Foreign Affairs ay tatawagin natin hinggil dito. Kailangan lang talaga makuha yung mga particulars. No? Kasi kung general yung paglalahad ng sitwasyon, hindi matutukoy. No? Kung merong detalye katulad ng nilahad ni Florante, matutukoy talaga saan lugar ba naganap yan, kailan, di ba? Kakaroon na ng concrete parameters for investigation.
Sir, also, just to clear the air now, kasi yung Malaysia is now hosting and facilitating our almost nearing conclusion of the MILF and government peace talks. So parang hindi ba tayo para medyo mas malambing or medyo mas mahina yung parang pag-push ng embassy natin doon dahil may utang na loob tayo sa Malaysian government?
Mahaba ang kasaysayan ng pagkakaibigan at kooperasyon sa pagitan ng Malaysia at ng Pilipinas. Katulad ng nabanggit, sila ang tumatayo ngayong facilitator ng ating peace talks hinggil sa Bangsamoro. Siguro ay makatwirang sabihin na sila ay nakikinig sa ating mga inilalahad sa kanila at wala naman pong kasaysayan na sila ay hindi nagbigay atensyon sa mga diplomatic concerns na ating inilahad sa kanilang pamahalaan. Kaya kailangan lang pong mailahad ito sa konkreto at ang ating pong Department of Foreign Affairs ay tiyak na gagawin ang lahat ng nararapat para mabigyan ng katarungan yung di umano'y pananakit, no, o paggawa ng karahasan laban sa ating mga mamamayan dahil hindi naman to talaga dapat na maganap. Ganon din sa ating bansa, tinatrato natin ng may paggalang ang mga mamamayan ng ibang bansa. Dapat lang na ganon din ang kanilang pagtrato sa ating mga mamamayan. Tinitiyak po natin na gagawin ang lahat ng nararapat para magawaran ng katarungan ang inilahad ng ating kasama rito.
Joel Egco of Manila Times.
Good afternoon, sir. Other issue po. Sa GOCC, sir, kahapon, nag-explain ni Secretary Lacerda na merong cap pala sa mga bonuses ng executives ng GOCCs. That's 3 million yata per year, no? But we have a COA report stating that, among others, CGSIS Chairman Robert Vergara ay merong natanggap na 16 million for 2011 and 2012. And I think another 16 million nung last year. Wasn't those a violation of the cap on bonuses or GOCC rules on bonuses?
Well, kung yan ay kasama sa audit findings, ay may tungkulin ang sinumang opisyal na tinutukoy na ipaliwanag yan. Dahil kaya't nagkaroon ng finding ay nakakita ng hindi tuwirang pagsunod sa mga umiiral na patakaran.
So this is, ano po ito, primarily a concern of the GCG po ba ito?
Kailangan sagutin yan ng naturang opisyal. At ang tungkulin naman ng GCG ay tiyakin na ang mga opisyal ay ginagampanan ng kanilang tungkulin at sumusunod sa lahat ng mga batas at alituntunin. Ang pinaiiral nila ay yung fit and proper rule. Every year ay nire-review ang kanilang performance sapagkat subject to renewal ang kanilang appointment At ang batayan sa renewal ay yung fit and proper rule. Sila ba ay karapat-dapat? May kakayahan ba sila? Sumusunod ba sila sa batas? Sumusunod ba sila sa alituntunin ng civil service? No? Yung mga lahat ng applicable laws. No? Kaya pertaining to a specific case, there are procedures for dealing with that, and most certainly the official that you mentioned has the responsibility to explain fully, no? Dahil meron naman siyang public accountability.
Okay. And that goes for other officials who reportedly also quote-unquote raked in huge profits during those periods. Kasi hindi lang po sa GSIS, also with SSS daw may mga ganun malalaking bonuses that as it appears parang more than talaga doon sa sinasabi ni Secretary Lacerda na 3 million cap.
Okay, kung mamarapati ninyo, no, allow me to summarize the position taken by the GCG. Kasi ang natanggap kong text question kanina, update from GCG on the 2.3 billion unauthorized bonuses of 31 GOCC. So with your permission, I would like to summarize the position taken by the GCG. Number 1, concerned GOCCs have been directed to address COA's audit findings, even as the GCG takes note that no final notice of disallowance has been issued. 2. The findings pertain to the payment of compensation and benefits that were being enjoyed by officials and employees of GOCCs even before the enactment of RA 10149 in 2011. Therefore, such compensation and benefits are covered by the principle of non-diminution. Number 3, even before the enactment of RA 10149, President Aquino issued Executive Order Number 7 in September 2010, which imposed a moratorium on increases on salaries, benefits, allowances, except salary adjustments involving payments in 2 tranches of the Modified Salary Standardization Law. All GOCCs have complied with this moratorium. Number 4, GCG is preparing to implement the compensation and position classification system that will rationalize salaries CCs. When this is implemented, new appointees will be covered by the new salary schedule, even if the people they will replace had received higher compensation. So yun po ang ating paglilinaw. Lahat naman po nung binanggit na audit findings, pinag-utusan na ang lahat ng concerned GOCCs na kailangan nilang ipaliwanag at i-justify yung kanilang posisyon. Dahil kung hindi nila ma-justify, this could lead to the possible issuance of a notice of suspension or a notice of disallowance. Pangalawa, yung mga findings na nakasaad doon sa COA report of 2012, COA Annual Report for 2012, pertain to compensation and benefits, no, na ipinagkaloob po sa kanila noong pang at bago pa na ipasa yung RA 10149. At dahil dito, sakop yun nung prinsipyo ng non-diminution. Kaya't kung ano na yung tinatanggap nila noon, bago pa maisabatas yung GCG law, hindi na pwedeng bawasan yun. Ganun pa man, kapag naipatupad na itong compensation and position classification system ng GCG, yung mga bagong hihirangin dun sa mga posisyon na yon, ang kanilang sweldo ay doon na sa bagong scale. Kahit na yung pinalitan nila mas mataas, no, na hindi maibaba dahil doon sa non-diminution. No. At importante rin, September 7, 2010 pa, no, nagpatupad ng moratorium. Wala nang increase sa mga salaries and benefits. At ayon sa GCG, lahat ng GOCC ay sumunod dito sa moratorium na ito. Sana ay naipaliwanag ko na lahat ng mga tanong at ang inyong mga katanungan hinggil sa isyung ito.
Wala po sinabi, sir, ng GCG kung kailan implement yung bagong compensation system?
Kung maaalala natin, sinabi ni Chairman Villanueva na nais na sana nila yung maipatupad, kaya lang nga ay nag-intervene itong mga crisis at mga calamities. Ang aking kaunawa, gusto nila itong maipatupad sa lalong madaling panahon.
Within the year or
Sa
within a
lalong
few months?
madaling panahon.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Kimberly Tan of GMA News Online.
Hi, sir. Can we get your reaction regarding the report of the international group Human Rights Watch na the Aquino administration failed to make any significant progress last year to address impunity?
We continue to work with the concerned government agencies. Ang direktiba po sa kanila ay pag-ibayuhin yung pagsisiyasat at paghahanap sa mga gumawa ng mga krimeng ito dahil hindi naman po natin mapapahintulutan yung paggawa ng karahasan laban sa mga journalist, no, at laban sa mga nagtatrabaho bilang mga periodista, no, in the exercise of freedom of expression and freedom of the press. Doon po sa mga nakaraang talakayan natin dito, na sabi ko na yung mga steps being taken, no? Halimbawa yung pagbaba rules of court para mapabilisan yung litigation, especially with regard to the biggest case involving violence against journalists, which is the Maguindanao massacre case. No? 3 na pong RTC judges ang naka-assign hinggil dito. Kung naalala ninyo, noong panahong sumapit yung sunod-sunod na media killings, ay gumawa rin ng commitment ang PNP at ang ating mga law enforcement agencies, no, na pag-iibayuhin nila ang kanilang pagsisikap na maaresto ang mga taong responsable sa pagpatay sa mga periodista. Kaya pag-iibayuhin ng ating pamahalaan ang pagsisikap na mabigyan ng katarungan ang karahasan laban sa mga journalists.
Sir, in your opinion, yung mga sinite nyo po na mga parang achievements po ng admin in fighting impunity, are those enough to counter yung sinasabi ng report na wala nga pong significant progress in the past year?
Patuloy nga po ang ating pagsisikap. Kung maaalala nyo din, nung tinanong ito ninyo sa ang bahagi ng kanyang tugon ay tungkol dun sa control of firearms. Diba? At ito ay isang pagtugon to a systemic problem. Nabanggit niya noong kinapanayam siya na ito yung naging response, no, at solution dun sa high rate of violence during election, no, dahil nga nakontrol yung loose firearms. At dun sa bagong mga pinapairal na patakaran, mas natututukan kung saan talaga yung mga lugar, no, na nagkaroon nito dahil dun sa pagtutok sa pagmamay-ari ng firearms. No. Kaya bahagi ito dun sa continuing efforts to stem the tide of violence against journalists and against persons in general.
Sir, on another topic po, can we get your reaction regarding a resolution filed sa House of Representatives seeking an inquiry sa possible misuse daw, sir, ng public funds or abuse of power in relation dun sa meeting with the President and Senator Revilla and other senators?
Nasagot na ng ating Pangulo yan, no, at natalakay na natin yan sa ating mga previous briefings. Katulad po ng ating sinasabi, kung may mga katanungan, karapatan naman nilang siyasatin yan at nahahanda naman ng ehekutibo na sagutin ang kanilang mga katanungan.
Follow-up?
Other
Joyce Pañares of Manila Standard.
Sir, relatedly po, si Senator Jinggoy Estrada, sabi niya during his meeting with the President, si Secretary Rojas daw po, siya yung salita ng salita about the impeachment and convincing him on the need to convict then Chief Justice Corona. Parehas po ba yung batayan natin kung titingnan yung naging actions ni Presidente saka yung actions ni Secretary Rojas? Kasi yung inaano natin na parang yung kay Presidente, because he was the chief executive, then it was within his right to make such a meeting and tell them that and assure them that parang wag kayong magsuccumb dun sa mga nagpe-pressure sa inyo. Si Secretary Rojas kasi very politicized din naman yung role niya, lalo pat sa kanya ang PNP and local government units. Tama po ba yung ginawa na i-discuss yung impeachment with the senator judge?
Ang tinatalakay natin dito ay yung pagkakaroon ng pag-uusap sa pagitan ng ating Pangulo at ni Senador Revilla, na kung saan nandoon din si Secretary Rojas at si Secretary Abad. Sa panig ng Pangulo ay naipaliwanag na niya ang dahilan kung bakit siya nakipagpulong doon. Ano pa ang nais nating malaman hinggil doon?
No, sir, this is for Senator Estrada during his meeting with the President. And
Kaya
again, si Secretary Rojas din yung nag-pick up sa kanya from, I don't know, somewhere else going to Malacanang. So, I mean, tama ba yun na dahil, kasi ang sinasabi ni Senator Estrada, it was Secretary Rojas doing the talking on the impeachment. I suppose iba ang batayan kung si Presidente ang nagsasalita dahil siya ay Presidente ng buong bansa as opposed to someone na appointed lang ng Presidente and highly politicized ang kanyang posisyon dahil under sa kanya ang LGUs.
Maunawaan ko lang kung ano yung gusto mong you're asking me about the propriety of Secretary Rojas'. Sa aking palagay, bahagi din naman ang kanyang tungkulin na magkaroon ng pagkakataon na talakayin ang mga isyong ito kapag ang kanyang kaharap ay mga katulad ni Senador Estrada. Wala naman akong nakikitang tinalakay doon na labag sa batas, no, o labag sa anumang pamantayan ng ethical behavior, no, in public service.
Sir, si Congressman Toby Tiangco, he said na yung parang naging pang-counter daw ng palasyo was the DAP. May we get your thoughts on this?
Pang-counter sa?
When the President said that he felt the need to counter the pressure exerted by external sectors, ang sinasabi ni Congressman Tiangco, yung counter na yon ang ginamit niya ay DAP.
Kailangan tanungin natin siya kung anong konkretong batayan other than speculation.
Benji Liwanag of DZWB.
Sir, good afternoon. Ano pong reaction ninyo sa sinabi nitong si Congresswoman, dating First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos, na hindi po makatao ang pag-handle ng Administrasyong Aquino kay dating Pangulong Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Pero daw nung panahon nila, pinayagan naman si dating Senador Ninoy Aquino, ang ama ng Pangulo, na makapunta sa Estados Unidos dahil sa usapin ng kalusugan. Ano po ang reaksyon ng Malacanang dito?
Uulitin ko na lang po ang palagian nating sinasagot sa parehong katanungan na makailang ulit ng nailahad sa ating talakayan dito. Ang Pangulong Aquino po ay walang masamang hangarin laban kay dating Pangulong Arroyo. President Aquino holds no ill will towards former President Arroyo. Ang kanya pong hospital confinement at the Veterans Memorial Medical Center is by order of the court in recognition of her medical condition. Siya, hinggil sa kanyang hospital confinement, ay may jurisdiction sa kasong kinasasangkutan niya bilang pagkilala sa kanyang kondisyong medikal.
Maraming salamat po.
Sa Lima Refran of GMA7.
Hi sir. Nagsimula na po yung pag-uusap na naman po between the Philippines and the MILF regarding nga po dun sa ating mga nalalabing annex actually on the Bangsamoro Framework Agreement. Meron na po ba tayong update regarding it?
Ang alam natin ay ngayong umaga ang umpisa ng patuloy na negosasyon hinggil na lang doon sa nalalabing annex. At ayon kay Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, Secretary Teresita Deles, ang schedule para dito ay mula ngayon hanggang January 26 sa araw ng Linggo. Buo ang ating pag-asa na matatapos ang pag-uusap at sana'y makabuo na ng kasunduan hinggil dun sa nalalabing annex para mabuo na rin yung sa pangkalahatan, yung agreement ng hindi lamang yung framework kung hindi lahat na ng annexes.
Sir, kasi di ba sinabi the last time, dapat by the end of 2013 na-achieve na yon, na napirmahan na po sana lahat ng annexes para po makamove forward tayo. Meron po ba tayong bagong deadline ngayon? At ano po yung ating mga target dates kung kailan po siya maipapasa na talaga finally?
Ang ating hinahangad ay matapos ang buong prosesong ito sa loob ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. At bago niyan, by 2015, ay magkaroon na ng plebisito doon sa Bangsamoro Basic Law. Ang plebisito na yan ay batay sa isa sa batas ng ating Kongreso. At yung isa sa batas ng ating Kongreso ay magiging batay din doon sa agreement. Kaya sa aming palagay, kahit na nagkaroon ng pagkaantala dahil naging komprehensibo naman yung sakop ng mga annexes, ay napunuan na ang lahat ng mga detalye na maaaring kailanganing isabatas. Kaya hindi naman natin masasabi na outright na delay yung proseso dahil yun takay na nila in fine detail at pagkakaroon ng comprehensive treatment of all the vital issues in each of the annexes would have facilitated the drafting of the basic law. Kung maalala natin, meron na namang mga nahirang na tao na magpapanukala nito, at sila yung gagawa ng pag-aaral sa paggawa ng panukalang batas. Kaya pagkatapos mapirmahan yung kabuuang kasulatan, umaasa tayo na maaari na itong sumulong doon sa aspeto ng pagpa-file ng panukalang batas sa ating Kongreso.
Sir, dun po sa mga nakaraang annexes na pinirmahan, kinailangan po mag-extend ng pag-uusap. Ito po ba, are you positive na matatapos siya Sunday? At given po yung fact na ito pong normalization annex, ito po yung isa dun sa mga pinaka sinasabi nga nila masalimuot dahil dun nga po sa 1996 na peace accord with MNLF, dun po nagka-problema. Kaya po nagkaroon ng Zamboanga crisis itong recent.
Kaya nga ang sinabi natin ay maasa tayo na magkakaroon ng nawaan at magkakaroon din ng kasunduan. Nakikita naman natin na sa magkabilang panig ay mataas ang antas ng pagtitiwala sa isa't isa at mataas din yung goodwill. Kaya sana ito ay maging batayan na magkaroon ng pagkakaunawaan at kasunduan sa loob ng kanilang itinakdang time frame. Ayaw naman natin silang pangunahan. Nagtitiwala naman tayo na ang magkabilang panig ay desidido na mabuo yung kasunduan hinggil dito sa pinakahuling annex.
Benji Liwanag, follow-up question.
follow-up tayo. Sir, dun po sa sitwasyon sa Mindanao, maganda po yung nilalatag ng gobyerno, pero makailang beses na rin po na nagkaroon ng banta ang ibang grupo, kagaya ng Moro National Liberation Front. Bagamat may mga pag-uusap between MNLF and MILF, pero meron pong mga faction. Bagamat namatay na itong si Javier sa Malik, isa sa mga pinuno ng Zamboanga Siege, meron pa po bang pagbabanta, pati na rin po ng MILF Lost Command ng grupo nila Amir Umbracato, sir?
Patuloy na tinututukan ng ating armed forces at security forces ang sitwasyon doon para mailayo ang ating mga mamamayan sa panganib. Hindi pa hihintulutan ng pamahalaan yung pag-umpisa o pagsasagawa ng karahasan, no, laban sa mga mamamayan.
Isa pa naman, sir, sa ibang topic naman. Lumalakas po kasi yung panawagan na ibalik natin yung parusang bitay. Isa po dito itong si Manila Mayor Erap Estrada na ang isa sa mga nagsabing panahon para sa ibalik ito dahil sa talamak na karumaldumal na mga krimen gaya ng panghahalay at pagpatay sa isang bata o batang babae sa Paco, Manila. Ano po ang reaksyon ng Malacanang dito, sir?
Pagbabalik ng
Parusang bitay.
death penalty.
sir.
Ang bagay na ito po ay pagbabago ng batas, no? At dahil sa malalim na at malawak na implikasyon, nararapat lamang na ito ay maging paksa, no, ng malawakang konsultasyon at pag-alam, no, hinggil sa saloobin ng mga mamamayan. Dahil malaking pagbabago ito, no? Yung umiiral ay no capital punishment. Sa aking palagay, kinakailangan yung malaman ang saloobin ng iba't ibang mga sektor na pwedeng maging batayan ng ating mga mambabatas. Hindi pa yan tinatalakay ng Pangulo at ng Gabinete.
Pero sinusuportahan po ba natin ito? Sa inyong pananaw, kayo sa Malacanang, as punong ehekutibo, ang executive ba?
Hindi pa nga po ito tinatalakay, no? At ang aming pananaw sa kasalukuyan, mainam na magkaroon ng malawakang konsultasyon para malaman ang saloobin ng iba't ibang sektor.
Bomber Raymond?
Advocacy ko lang sa mga magsaka. Nabanggit kasi sa Senate hearing kahapon na dahil nga sa ginamit allegedly ni Mr. Davidson Bangayan or David Tan yung mga kooperatiba na nagsilbing ma-consignee yung mga smuggled rice, ay sila ngayon yung nakulong, yung farmer groups na yun, sila yung kawawa. So, can the government do something to reach out to them? Kasi parang it's a blatant injustice on their part naman na nagamit na nga sila pa yung kulong ngayon.
Kailangang siyasatin ang bagay na yan dahil ayon nga sa iyong pahayag, hindi naman makatwiran kung mga inosenteng magsasaka o magbubukid na ginamit lamang o pinagsamantalahan ang daranas pa ng pagkapiit o ng parusa, no? Kailangan siyasatin yan ng ating mga kinaukulang autoridad at kailangang itigil ang ganyang pagsasamantala sa ating mga magbubukid.
Sir, also, Mr. Jess Arans implied na hindi ganito kalakas yung loob nitong si Davidson Bangayan na magsagawa ng itong mga operasyon kung walang mataas na opisyal protecting him to do so. Can we assure na hindi masasanto o it doesn't stop at the doorstep of Malacanang yung sinasabing protector nito?
Sa lahat ng pagkakataon, ang patakaran natin ay kailangang magkaroon ng konkretong batayan at kapag ebidensya, wala namang sinisino, walang kinatatakutan, walang pinapaboran. Kinakailangan managot dahil naniniwala tayo sa prinsipyo ng accountability of public officials at ng lahat ng mga lumabag sa batas.
Thank you, sir.
Bernard Taguinod of Abante.
Sir, going back to the visit of former First Lady Marcos kay GMA, parang sunod-sunod na kasi parang first si Erap, Ramos, and now the Marcoses. The Marcos. Parang hindi kayo natatakot na nagkakaisa na sila.
Karapatan nila na gawin yung ginawa nila at buo ang kanilang laya na ginawa yon. Wala namang masama sa kanilang ginawang pagdalaw.
So parang nagkakaisa na sila. Is this related to 2016 this early?
Linawin lang natin, wala akong sinabi dun sa kataga mo yun, Bernard, hindi sa akin, no? Yung mukhang nagkakaisa sila. Baka naman
Yan ang perceptions ng mga political analysts. Parang nagkakaisa na tong group na to, may grudge si Pinoy sa bawat isa.
Hayaan na lang natin yung expression, no, ng kanilang mga opinion hinggil sa bagay na yan. Sa ganang amin, ang mahalaga rito ay yung paggawad ng katarungan hinggil sa mga usapin na hinaharap ng dating Pangulo.
So, hindi kinakabahan ang palasyo?
Hindi.
Okay, thank you.
Ann of Solar News. AC Nichols.
Hi, sir. Can we get your reaction sa decision ng isang United States court ordering former Philippine police officer Michael Ray Aquino to pay more than $4 million in punitive damages to the 4 daughters of Bobby Dacer after finding him responsible for coordinating the kidnapping, torture, and murder of the publicist and his driver 13 years ago? So, pinagbabayad na po, sir, ngayon.
Kailangan nating maunawaan, no? Dahil ito ay isang pasya ng isang US court. No? Hindi naman pasya ng maging anumang desisyon ng korte, dito man sa atin o hindi. Minamabuti natin na pag-aralan muna kung ano yun, no? Bago tayo magbigay ng komento. Wala namang sangkot na tuwiran ang pamahalaan natin hinggil dyan.
Any more questions? No more? No more? Last question. We learned. Last question, Vange Fernandez.
Sir,
Yes, Vance.
I'm here. Sir, my first question is about why smuggling ay nakatuon kay David Tan. Nakalimutan na habulin ng iba pa nakakasuhan. Parang nakasentro po sa kanya. Any reaction on this?
Nang natunghayan ko yung investigasyon ng Senado kahapon, ang aking impresyon ay inanyayahan nila lahat ng mga individual at mga organisasyon na maaring may concern, no, hinggil dyan sa aspeto na yan. At ang nakita ko naman ay inaalam nila, no, sa isang komprehensibong paraan kung ano ang lahat na malaman. Hindi naman ako nagkaroon ng impresyon na nakapokus lamang yan sa iisang individual. Dahil follow-up na nga ito doon sa nakaraan pang ang narinig ko at natunghayan doon, ano na ba ang naging progreso doon sa findings, no, nung nakaraan hinggil sa rice smuggling, dahil ang concern ng Senado ngayon, paano maiiwasan, no, yung mga natuklasan at paano matitiyak na hindi makakaperwisyo ito sa ating mga mamamayan.
Okay, sir, on another issue, yung father po ni Bong Revilla, it's the Revilla Senior, no? Sabi po, bahagi daw din po siya ng NGOs ni Janet Napoles. May balak po ba kasuhan ito si Revilla Senior?
Hihintayin na lang natin kung ano ang magiging development single dyan, dahil ang ating pananaw ay kinakailangan maging konkreto yung batayan. Dahil seryoso yung aligasyon.
Okay, so another issue. Sabay-sabay po ang mangyayaring traffic po dahil sa sabay-sabay din po ang construction. Ano po ng Malacanang dahil po maapektuhan itong mga motorista natin?
Bahagi doon sa pagpaplano ng construction ng mga infrastructure projects na yan, including repair of EDSA, ay yung mitigation measures kung paano yan kung paano mababawasan yung magiging perwisyo. Nananawagan na lang tayo na magkaroon ng pag-unawa ang ating mga mamamayan dahil hindi naman maaaring habang panahon na lang ipagpapaliban yung pagsasagawa nito. Kinakailangan ang konting sakripisyo. Let us share in the burden of sacrifice. Government will do what it can to mitigate the possible ill effects, no, like yung traffic congestion. Pero yung mga bagay na yan ay hindi na maaring ipagpaliban pa, no, katulad nga nung repair of major thoroughfares like EDSA.
Okay, last na lang po, sir. According to Saldoriaga, may nakaambang brownout po. Wala daw control sa supply, gayon din sa rate. Dahil napunta po ito sa power generators.
Ang
Any reaction
tinutukoy
po?
mo ay si Saldariaga ng Meralco.
Yes, sir. Saldoriaga.
Lahat ng mga players, no, sa electric power industry ay may kanya-kanyang tungkulin at pananagutan sa ilalim ng batas. Titiyakin ng pamahalaan na tinutupad nila yon, hindi nila nilalabag ang batas at hindi nila pinagsasamantalaan ang mga mamamayan.
Thank you, Vanch. Enough. Thank you, Secretary Sani Coloma. Thank
Maraming
you,
salamat
Radio
at
TV
magandang
Malacanang.
hapon sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Radio TV Malacanang. Back to main studios of PTV4 and Radyo ng Bayan. Konektado ka.